The big controversy today, this morning in Eastern time, there was a boxing match between an individual who has registered XY chromosomes previously, but may or may not be, this is trans, we don't know for sure, and it's led to a lot of controversy because the female competitor bowed out, forfeited the match after 46 seconds, pulled her hand away from the ref, dropped to her knees, started crying, and refused to fight. This has led to a lot of people saying that they stand with the female competitor because the Olympics should never have allowed a male to compete. Well, there's another male. As the story goes, it's two individuals who they claim were born female, or at the very least registered female on their birth certificates and passports, because Taiwan and Algeria, where the two fighters hail from, do not recognize transgender alterations to certificates. However, these individuals may have some type of androgen insensitivity that results in them presenting as female despite having testosterone and XY chromosomes. So the whole thing's been quite controversial, and it's led to a statement from the Olympics. Currently, Riley Gaines, tweeting in support of the female, has over 134,000 retweets on her post standing with the individual. So massive story. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, we have the projections for Kamala Harris. She's going to win. Yeah, the betting odds are now suggesting Kamala Harris is going to win. She is now leaning favorably in the blue wall states. And speculation that she's going to pick Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania has led many to believe that, or some to believe that she will win Pennsylvania. And that's why she's going to make this choice. Shapiro, of course, cleared a schedule ahead of the announcement for her VP pick. So it may be Shapiro. So we're going to talk about that, plus a whole lot more. We've got news coming out pertaining to the Israel-Iran conflict, fears of an escalation of war, a shutting down of flights over the area. CNN also shut down their opinion section. Good fun today. We'll talk about all that. Before we get started, my friends, head over to mypillow.com/Tim. Use promo code Tim because, my friends, we're selling pillows today. Go buy a pillow, but they got more than pillows. Shout out to Mike Lindell. We're big fans. And they say that you've asked, so MyPillow listened. They're finally bringing you the most requested offer ever. Get the queen size premium MyPillow now, only $19.98. It's made with a patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs, regardless of your sleep position. Helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long, so you get the best sleep of your life. But they've also got a 6-piece kitchen or bath towel set for only $25, brand new mattress topper for $69.98, and bed sheets, the famous MyPillow bed sheets for $25. I'm going to tell you guys, I was skating earlier. Felt like I pulled a muscle in my shoulder. I mean this seriously. I was doing a crooked grind on my skateboard. You don't got to know what that means. It just means I was skating. And then I popped out, which means I jumped off the ledge, and I felt a crick in my shoulder, and I was like, oh, man, this is going to suck. And so around 5 o'clock, I laid down for about an hour, legit on my MyPillow. This is 100% serious, 100% true. I feel fine right now. I legit love these pillows. So shout out to Mike Lindell. Go to mypillow.com. Use promo code Tim. We also got a phone number for you. It is 800-925-9096. Thank you, Mike Lindell, for supporting the show and sponsoring us. Again, promo code Tim. Also, head over to timcast.com. Click Join Us to become a member and support our work directly. It is the best online membership you could join. Everybody agrees. At least that's what I've been told. As a member, you'll get access to our Discord server. It's really great. A lot of great people there. Some say the best. And as a member of the Discord, you'll hang out with some of the best people who are saying very good things. And I don't get any credit for the Discord. It's all the people inside, but that's how it goes. It is the best Discord. And you'll also get access to our members-only uncensored show coming up at 10 p.m., which is pretty good. You definitely want to check it out. And so go to timcast.com, click Join Us, become a member. Smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Tayler Hansen.
Always thanks for having me. I'm a field reporter with Tenet Media. I cover pretty much anything breaking news related and culturally relevant decay, I should say. So a little bit of everything.
Yikes. Where can they find you?
Tenet Media is at Watch Tenet Now. All my stuff goes exclusively on there.
And then tomorrow morning, we're going to be on the Culture War talking about communism and Islam. And that's at Tenet Media on YouTube, so check them out as well. We also got Libby hanging out.
I'm hanging out. I'm here. Glad to see you, Taylor. I'm Libby Emmons. I am with the Post Millennial and HumanEvents.com.
And I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. That's Scanner News. Follow their work at Timcast News. I'm glad you're both here. There's a lot to talk about today. Let's get started.
Here's the big story from the Daily Mail. Olympic Committee releases statement on Iman Khif after biologically male boxer destroyed female rival Angela Carini in 46 seconds. I mean, you watch this video and this dude is just like, boom, right in her face. And it was so hard. She immediately just like, I'm done. I am not going to fight. And we actually have the video for you guys. So let's see if we can get this video up here. This is there were two stops. So you can see here in the bottom left, it says 2 minutes and 20 seconds. It's a 3-minute start. So this is about 40 seconds in. Watch what happens.
Solid straight right hand from Khif there.
And that's it. Just like that, they call the match. I think I might have another tweet. There's her crying. There's running against. I don't think I have the other. There's other clips of it, but that's basically it. So at 46 seconds in, she bows out. Now, the controversy here is that Iman Khif, as well as another competitor whose I believe his name is Lin Yu-ting. Yeah, Lin Yu-ting, they both tested biologically male. XY chromosomes is what the a statement from the World Boxing Association, or whatever the organization is called, like a World Boxing Championship, said XY chromosomes, and they had male testosterone levels. And so they were disqualified and had their medals stripped, I believe, from previous fights. They are still allowed to compete in the Olympics because the Olympics criteria is that your passport says F. That was it. And so they put out this statement, and this has led a lot of people to say, hold on, this may not be cut and dried. These may be intersex individuals. Well, I believe now what the narrative is that they're suffering from something called DSD. I believe the general idea is that they have an insensitivity at some degree to testosterone, resulting in the development of a female structure in the womb, despite them having internal testes, male chromosomes, and actually going through male puberty and legit just being male. And so the Olympics has released this statement. Joint Paris 2024 Boxing Unit IOC statement. Every person has the right to practice sport without discrimination. All athletes participating in the boxing tournament of the Olympic Games Paris 2024 comply with the competition's eligibility and entry regulations, as well as all applicable medical regulations set by Paris's 2024 Boxing Unit, PBU. As with previous Olympic boxing competitions, the gender and age of these athletes are based on their passport. Well, okay. These rules all
practice wrong.
What up here with like the British? Is that? I just assumed that was like the British spelling of it.
Yeah,
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
Taylor's only here for American spelling.
They say the rules also applied during the qualification period, including the boxing tournaments of the 2023 European Games, Asian Games, Pan American Games, and Pacific Games, the ad hoc 2023 African qualifying tournament, et cetera, et cetera. We'll skip ahead. They say the PBU used the Tokyo 2022 rules as the baseline. They're going to mention that these individuals did compete 4 years ago. And I mentioned this in my previous coverage a couple days ago. They say we have seen in reports misleading information about 2 female athletes competing at the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Full stop. They're saying female, despite the fact that official gender testing from the World Championship Boxing Association is that they tested male. So confusion there. The 2 athletes have been competing in international boxing competitions for many years in the women's category, including the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. They say International Boxing Association World Championships and IBA sanctioned tournaments. I believe that's who actually said no and stripped them of their titles. These 2 athletes were victims of a sudden and arbitrary decision by the IBA. Toward the end of the IBA World Championships in 2023, they were suddenly disqualified without any due process. According to the IBA minutes available on their website, this decision was initially taken solely by the IBA Secretary General and CEO. The IBA board only ratified it afterwards and only subsequently requested that a procedure to follow in similar cases in the future should be established and reflected in the IBA regulations. The minutes also say that the IBA should establish a clear procedure on gender testing. The current aggression against these 2 athletes is based entirely on this arbitrary decision, which was taken without any proper procedure, especially considering that these athletes had been competing in top-level competition for many years. They say such an approach is contrary to good governance. They go on to say the IOC has made it clear that it needs national boxing federations to reach a consensus around new international federation in order for boxing to be included on the sports program. Blah, blah, blah. They're there to protect human rights, et cetera, et cetera. And so now there's a big controversy, right? J.K. Rowling has chimed in. We have this Algeria FC football club says cry more. It's a picture of Angela Carini of Italy crying. Riley Gaines, not Taylor Silverman, Riley Gaines, shout out to Taylor, 137.4 million views, 135,000 retweets on. Men don't belong in women's sports. Stand with Angela Carini. Let's get it trending. Well, I'm going to pause right there, and I'm going to try and be as offensive to literally everybody as possible. And I do not stand with Angela Carini. I do not stand with anybody who supports men fighting women. I do not stand with anybody who believes that males should be entitled to female sporting spaces. I disagree with that, and that includes even if it's coming from Carini. She said that she forfeited the match because her nose was hurting. She did not say she forfeited the match because she was up against a biological male. And in defeat, Carini said, quote, "I wish her to carry on until the end and that she can be happy. I am someone who doesn't judge anyone. I am not here to give judgments." That's just me. I'm not going to stand with feminists who think it's okay that biological males punch women in the face. That's just me. I don't know what you guys think.
This is a weird case because if it's, so the fighter in question, Khif, is from Algeria, and Algeria doesn't change people's gender on their passport to accommodate transgenderism, which would mean presumably this person has always been classified by the government as female, which again makes me think this is an intersex case. And there had been that intersex runner from South Africa in the past, and I remember it was a big controversy because at the time the Olympics would test hormone levels, and intersex athletes who were classified as female but had high levels of testosterone had to take birth control to lower their testosterone. At the time, the runner didn't want to do it. And so it's always been this weird issue where and sometimes the transgender ideology movement includes intersex people and sometimes they don't, right? Because it depends on what they're actually feeling. But being transgender seems very different for me than being someone born with very complicated XY or XXY or whatever chromosomes.
There's Caster Semenya.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's a South African runner.
Yeah.
And again, it's very weird. If a different committee, a different sport had said your testosterone levels are too high, no matter how you were raised or whatever, how you're classified, then that seems like it's an ongoing issue. But the Olympics has changed their standards for this issue in a lot of ways, especially as it's gone from being about intersex people who have, issues with hormones and genitalia and all kinds of stuff versus someone who just in their mind has decided they are not whatever sex they are biologically born.
This is not a transgender issue at all. Not at all. And I was saying this days ago when the story first broke that the Olympics were going to allow biological males to compete against women. I stressed there is no evidence to suggest these are transgender individuals. They are literally just males. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that's likely the case. Now, the argument is they were born and presumed female, which actually is an argument for a lot of the left on the whole issue, but presents a serious problem in sports. They have male testosterone levels. They have male physical advantages. They are biologically male except for what's called DSD. I suppose that's what it's being referred to. Mm-hmm. And so it's males. And so how do we handle this? Hey, look, man, I don't know. I can certainly tell you that the one thing I really do not like about a lot of the conservatives in this regard is they continually defend progressives and feminists, and I just don't get it. Imagine if Kamala Harris got sniffed by Joe Biden and complained about it. I mean, we'd be like, it's really bad that he did that. We get it. But then she immediately came around.
He's your guy.
No, but then she immediately turned around and said, no, it's good that he's sniffing all these women. Then I'd be like, okay, well, then you got what you wanted. I mean, I don't understand. If she's defending it and she supports it, why would you defend her? Carini, people are going to make the argument that, she's forced to say these things or whatever. If a feminist says she wants to fight a guy, gets in the ring with that guy and fights him, not a single conservative would defend her. I don't understand why they're defending her now.
Well, she doesn't have a backbone, and I think that shows. I mean, she will never compete again if she comes out and says something, but look at what Riley Gaines did, and that's exactly what we need from these girls. It's she's literally saying that she hopes that this man goes on and beats the crap out of a bunch of different women and wins the gold medal, which is absolutely insane. And if you're, how hormones work, these people were born male even if there were complications. You can't just inject testosterone and become a male even if that was the case, but they have elevated DHT levels, elevated testosterone levels. It's going to make them literally testes. I mean, these are males, no matter the complications or anything. So now we're glorifying on the national stage of what's supposed to be the highest, held regard sports in the world, that men are literally abusing women in a ring, and they're defending it.
Who's a prominent feminist? Is there let's just say Kamala Harris. If Kamala Harris came out right now and said, "You're all bigots. This is a beautiful woman who should be allowed to compete in the Olympics," then got in the ring and said, "I'll prove it and I'll box this person," and lost, conservatives would mock Kamala all day. They'd say men shouldn't compete against women, but Kamala it's absurd. How could she supports this? She gets what she voted for. The same thing is true for Angela Carini, but people are like, we're going to stand with her because she was crying. I'm like, but she's crying and then saying, I support this.
The other thing, too, that as far as the argument that she was forced to say something, forced by what? Her dream is already squashed. Like, say whatever you want now. It's all dead.
Well, imagine training your entire life.
Yeah.
Literally, these athletes go their entire life to train for something like this, finally get to the Olympics. Their dream is to win a gold medal, and then it's squashed by a biological man that beats the crap out of you on a national stage, and you don't have the intentionality behind you and what you believe in to come out and say, hey, this is wrong.
Yeah, and this whole thing reminds me of one year my friend for Halloween, she put on a fake black eye, and I was like, what's your costume? She goes, oh, I got mouthy.
Wow. Fair Play for Women changed their Twitter, their X banner to a battered woman, and it says the year male violence against women became an Olympic sport. So, yeah, things are certainly getting a bit spicy, nonetheless. But this is the big question. How do you handle this? And should we expect this to continue in future Olympics? I think the answer is yes, it will continue and it'll get worse. And I don't know, even if Donald Trump wins, it doesn't change European culture in other countries.
Mm-hmm. Well, it says a lot about the current state of society that now we have Olympic Games where biological men are literally beating the crap out of women, and women are saying, no, this is a good thing. Let him beat the crap out of more women and steal everybody's gold medals.
The thing, too, is none of this would have happened in this way. Nobody would be quite this upset about it if they hadn't been trying to force men into women's sports already. So now it's like, oh, should the standard for being able to compete in women's sports be that your chromosomes are tested? Should we be testing everybody's chromosomes, the entire U.S. Olympic
This is
team?
what I find so
Is that what we should
confusing,
be
right?
doing? Because all of these, you have like these male persons, right, with male characteristics. Colin Wright was talking about it. We talked about this before the show. He was saying that there's plenty of variation biologically and in the sexes, and this is a variation of a male person. These wouldn't even be questions if it wasn't that they were forcing men into women's sports.
I can answer this very, very easily, just across the board.
Go for it.
You can't bet on this.
You can't bet on it.
I have been trying to bet on these fights. I can't. You've got a fight coming up with Lin Yuting tomorrow. I searched BetMGM and DraftKings. Tain't there. And then you got the next fight with Khif coming up, the quarterfinals. It's not there. And I'm like, hey, man, it may only be a 3% return, but free money's free money. So the betting odds for the Iman Khif Carini fight was if you bet $100 on Iman, you won $3.
Oh, so you'd get 103 back.
Yes.
I've never seen betting odds that are that low. On
It's
the
minus 3,333. I think it might be like some of the lowest. And I think right now the Lin Yuting odds are minus 250, which isn't that bad. I think you win. What does that mean? You win like $40. But so I guess what happened was when before anybody knew what was going on, the betting odds for Iman was minus 150. That means if you bet $100, you'd win $66. So $100 in, 166 comes out if Iman wins. As soon as people got word that Iman had failed a gender test and was male, it dropped way down instantly. Basically, everybody started just going after it, being like, "I'm free money, baby." So I started Google searching it. I got DraftKings, I got BetMGM. I search for them, they don't come up. Other boxing matches come up. There's Olympic boxing, men's and women's. There's by different weight categories. They have the times listed, and I can't find Khif or Lin Yuting in these apps or on their websites. In fact, when I search the websites, it comes up on Google. You click it, gone.
Well, Khif has lost to actual women before.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Sure.
There's no reason you shouldn't be able to bet on it.
I mean, maybe, I don't know what the issue
It's
is.
not like a, predetermined.
Other people have posted that as soon as they found out, because Alex Stein's making a big deal. He's like, guys, go bet on the males to win. I mean, it's a great odds. And other people have posted the bets disappeared. Like they pulled up the websites. They were there before. Now they're gone. I think the issue, I don't know exactly how the payouts work. Maybe you guys in the chat know. Do you guys know how like the betting system works? My understanding is that it's basically everybody who bets, you're basically betting against each other. So the odds change based on the amount of money in the pool, based on how the bets are going. So if like 3 people are betting on Kini, then the most you can win is whatever they put in. So it's like almost nothing. And that's what so everybody and their grandma was betting on Khif to win. And so there's very little to actually win because nobody's betting that you win $3. Some people might be thinking, hey, it's a value bet. I got to tell you, be warned though. Think about this. Imagine you're a dude, and you're pulling a Juana Man. And you go to the Juana Man.
What's that?
It's where the basketball player gets kicked out of it's the movie. He gets kicked out of the NBA, so then he dresses up in drag and then competes in the WNBA instead.
I gotcha. Okay.
Because he's like, I play basketball, I want a job.
First dunk ever.
Yeah. Yep. So it's a real movie. It's real. I'm not making fun of anybody. So imagine this Khif person knows that they have testes and male testosterone and they're going to win. And so they drum up all of this controversy. Everybody runs full speed to bet as much as they can on him to win, thinking, hey, look, if I bet $100,000, I win $3,000. That's $3,000 free, right?
Sure, go for it.
And then, right before the match, Khif goes to his buddy and says, bet against me. That $100,000. And then, and falls over. And then, boom, that $100,000, it becomes $1 million. Because Kini's odds was like 10 to 1. A $100 bet won you $1,000. Now that's value. Some people might be trying to make those value bets, but I don't know if you guys who are watching have been able to find those bets. I'm not suggesting a $1,000 bet to make $30. Yep, I don't know.
Great ROI.
Well, some people are like, just put it in the stock market. It's less risky. Yeah. But I think the betting thing kind of spells it out for everybody. You can, when we look at prediction markets for elections and you look at polling, hey man, money talks, BS walks. So a lot of people will go to the polls and they'll be like, look at the polls. Kamala Harris is doing really, really well. And then I'm like, yeah, look at Vegas. Vegas doesn't like losing money. And it's not the companies, it's the individuals who are making the bets. We call that the wisdom of the crowd. So in this regard, when the betting odds for this person go down to 1.03 or minus 3,333, all of society is basically saying, we understand why men should not fight women.
Right.
They all know it. And they're going to profit off of it.
Yeah. Well, here we are.
Wait, Tim, are you trying to say that there is biological differences between men and women and that the large majority of society realizes this?
I was hanging out with some family friends and they had 2 kids, a boy and a girl. And then the dad was just like, I learned after having these kids that there's no question about the biological differences between boys and girls, because at some point, for some reason, the boy started smashing things and we didn't teach him to do it. And he doesn't watch the movie. He started smashing things. And then the slightly younger daughter started immediately picking up the dolls and running away to try and care for them. And they were like, no one taught them to do that. They just did it. And I thought that was absolutely hilarious. The little boy just started smashing stuff and beating the dolls. And the little girl was like, no. And she picked him up and ran away with him. Well, there you go. I don't know, man. I don't know what you guys think is going to happen. Or you don't look like big sports bettors, so I don't know if you care all that much.
I just want one of these athletes to come out and say, like, I am trans or I am intersex, right? Because I feel like that really changes the narrative here. And again, I've seen mixed reporting where it's like this person got expelled from the World Championship for boxing because of high testosterone levels, and then other ones are saying, male conditions at which they produce male markers. And so it seems like that would influence betting or just any kind of procedural situation here, right? It doesn't seem as straightforward as just like this person is trans and therefore is clearly biologically male. But maybe
Could you imagine growing up
here.
and being raised female and then realizing that you're a male?
You hear these horror stories where
That's like
someone
what happened to Caster Semenya. Like
Right.
growing up, like thought he was female. the
otherwise
whole
presents as
time,
female.
Otherwise presents as female.
and has
Benjamin Button.
And it makes you start to wonder, like, what about Brittany Griner, who looks very male and has,
right. You hear these stories of like girls
Who
being
knows
like
what's going
18, being like, oh, I've never gotten my period, and goes to the doctor, and then they like discover that person has internal testes, and that
or has
never descended.
or like some gonadal streaks
Right.
is a thing where you don't even have anything really.
It's crazy.
It's very confusing. Yeah, it could be very bizarre.
The Olympics and all these sports areas, they back themselves into a complete corner now of where I don't think you're ever going to be able to get rid of people that identify one way fighting in these sports against women or just full-blown males beating women. I think we've reached a point in society where this is just the new normal, and now domestic violence is basically just on display for everybody to see, and now it's celebrated too. So we've reached a very weird spot in the world of where I think this is just going to continue getting worse until there's some sort of, I'll use the terminology, great reset, or something drastic happens, or somebody dies in the ring, because that's what it's going to lead to.
We were talking last night about a girl who was paralyzed by a trans player playing volleyball.
Yeah, volleyball. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that a huge part of this is that we've pushed this so far as a culture that we've gotten to the point where we have now effectively done the thing that has been propagandized this whole time, which is we can no longer tell the difference between men and women.
Right.
We can't tell the difference. And we can't tell the difference enough to determine who should play against each other in the most celebrated sporting competitions in the world. We can't tell enough to determine who should be called mother half the time now. It's all very perplexing, and we've done this to ourselves. We have destroyed our culture. And it's funny, when I first started looking into this and seeing this all spring up, in like 2010, I first started writing about this in satirical plays. During that time, I think the first one was like, did it a little bit, but anyway, it was finished 2013 and we performed it and stuff. And everyone thought that I was crazy. I would talk to my mom and she'd be like, that's nuts. And I'd be like, we're moving to a place of erasing women, and we have successfully erased women because we can no longer define women.
And that's what Phyllis Schlafly said when she was campaigning against the Equal Rights Amendment, right? She said it's not about equality for men and women, it's about the deletion of
And Kamala Harris and Josh Shapiro and all of the rest of them, they want the Equal Rights Amendment.
So someone super chatted that's on FanDuel, and so I just downloaded it. It is minus 320 odds. That means, hey, it's not bad. $100 bet wins you $31. That's not bad.
I wonder if it's going to drop significantly by the time the fight actually happens.
Especially now with me saying it.
Yeah, everybody's going to be running to FanDuel really quick.
I am not suggesting anyone make bets on this stuff because, like I mentioned, you don't know. And it's not like there's a guarantee this person wins just because they may have, testosterone or whatever. But interesting nonetheless. Now, Iman Khif's next opponent, Anna Lukahamori, is not scared. This is the story from the New York Post.
You should
The first Hungarian Olympic boxer faces Khif in the quarterfinal Saturday and expresses that she has no fear. I just kind of feel like this looks like a guy. But that's just me. I'm not trying to be mean, but she didn't care. So this is another part of the issue I was bringing up very early on. No one supports men in women's sports more than the women who choose to participate in those sports.
Right.
Riley Gaines quit and has spoken out to a great degree and has continued to advocate against this. Taylor Silverman, who skates with us at the Boonies, has spoken out against this time and time again. So I respect and I support the women and men who are calling out males competing against females. But these women want to do it. Honest question, seriously. Should I tell Anna Lukahamori she should not be allowed to choose to fight against a male?
Well, it's going to reach like peak pinnacle once we get to the point of where the NFL draft, you start seeing women. That's where I feel like it's like, the pinnacle of all of this is women serving in war. And we've already started to see that in places like Ukraine. We're going to start literally sending our women off to die.
Maternity flight suits. And also, there is a female kicker, That's a thing.
Yo, Lin Yuting's odds are minus 1,450.
Wow.
Wow, that means you win like $6 for a $100 bet.
There is a campaign that was just launched, a fund from Jennifer Say, who did XXXY Athletics. And it's a fund to support women athletes who are speaking out against men in their sports so that there's not the... this is like what you did with Taylor, It's like so that it's not a monetary penalty that you get.
I got to stress it again, man. You can fool some of the people some of the time. You can fool all the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And when you look at betting odds, you could do Taylor. You could do a man on the street and go to New York, and I guarantee you're getting a bunch of these progressives in Times Square being like, "Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's fine." Then you say, "Okay, want to make a bet?" Make a bet. That's a video for you. You should do that. Be like, put down $100 right now on the woman to beat the man. Do it. They're gonna be like, no way. I don't want to give away money.
Yeah, why would you do that?
All right, so let's jump to this story. Donald Trump is speaking out. Trump vows to keep men out of women's sports following Karini's forfeit an Olympics boxing match. Karini says, I've never felt a punch like this. Donald Trump just truthed, I will keep men out of women's sports. Wow, man. This gender ideology stuff made it to the Olympics, the international stage. We've been warning about this. It happened several years ago because Tokyo Olympics allowed it too.
Laurel Hubbard.
What was that one about?
Laurel Hubbard was the New Zealand
Oh, right, the weightlifter. Yeah.
Who then his arms snapped backwards and everyone was like, see, he didn't win, so it doesn't matter. It's still equitable. But the fact of the matter is that he took the opportunities from the young women who could have competed.
But in that case, too, that person was openly trans, born
he
for
was
sure.
definitely
Everyone
trans.
agreed
I mean,
male
the
trans.
hairline
Whereas,
was
again,
trans.
I feel like this situation seems weirdly ambiguous. Why wouldn't we just say trans or not?
Well, but if they're not trans and they're just men, they should also not be in women's sports.
Right.
I think it's even worse if they're just full-blown men because they have higher levels of people that are trans.
Yeah.
When it comes to DHT,
Well,
testosterone,
this is why I thought
whole
that,
nine yards.
again, if we go back to the South African sprinter, intersex people they're very rare, but they compete at the Olympic level and they had, requirements to lower their testosterone level. I feel like this is such a weird situation where has the standards for boxing changed where they're no longer required to take these hormone shots or birth control, it's such a weird situation to me where all of this has become conflated, where one to me is a serious medical complication. If you're born with XX chromosomes, if you have, testes in your body that as well as other genitalia, or if you know that you are biologically male and you decide, well, I'm going to join the women's league. I've decided that's a better fit for me. I mean, they're similar, but they are not interchangeable to me. And again, either one is serious, right? We should have serious rules about them. But instead, it's all what can we do to accommodate people who identify as trans? And that's what's frustrating because they're not the same thing. I don't know.
No, it should be 100% illegal through and through. I like that Trump said something about it. I mean, you should literally be charging this man for beating up a woman, in my opinion. This is insane.
I disagree. I disagree.
She stepped into the ring.
Well, if a woman says, I'd like to enter a baseball game with a man, are we going to be like, no, that's not allowed. Women aren't allowed to play baseball with men. But what if the guy pitches so fast and so hard and it hits her and it breaks her arm and she gets hurt? Of course, there's a difference in combat sports. But I'm more libertarian as long as people are informed and they know exactly what they're up against and they choose to enter that ring. I'm not a conservative. I'm not going to sit here and be like, we don't allow this. I'm going to be like, people can choose to live the lives they want to live within certain boundaries. And if an individual is in sports and they want to choose to fight, because imagine there's a female who is just one of the best, and wants to go up against a male to see if they can actually hang, but they're actually a really strong, capable female. That's their choice. Now, the issue at hand is female sports, the athletes don't have a say. The governing bodies are doing this to them, and many of them are complaining about it, and they have no choice. So, for instance, with Riley Gaines, I guess she said that she tied with William Thomas or whatever, and they said, well, we're going to put him up on the podium instead of you for political reasons. See, that's a problem. Telling women they have no say in the matter in their own leagues and their own sporting events is wrong. But and so that's the problem here. This is why I'm critical of Karini. So someone super chatted that she's being sarcastic. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't translate, and I don't know if she was being sarcastic, saying I wish her the best to make it all the way to the end, and that she's happy. Maybe she was like, I hope she makes it to the end. I hope she's happy. Could have been. I don't know. I don't know why she'd say I hope she makes it to the end.
Yeah, I mean, why would you want that?
So I will criticize the IOC, the Olympics, the league. I will agree with Donald Trump. I don't know exactly what Trump will do. What will Trump do?
Well, look what Biden did.
Title IX
all
enforcements?
he has to do is reverse everything that Biden did, because nothing Biden did went through Congress. Everything he did was by an executive order, and he signed all these executive orders on the same day as he reversed all of Trump's executive orders. So all Trump would have to do, would be to sign an executive order saying, that's it. Get rid of everything you did under the LGBTQIA plus gender inclusion thing for federal agencies. Because what happened was Biden signed the executive order requiring all federal agencies to have extra inclusion for, the whole alphabet soup. And every federal agency had, I think, 180 days to come back with their plan for what they would do. And the Department of Education said, okay, we're going to revise Title IX so that every time it says sex in Title IX, what they mean is gender identity. And that's per the Bostock ruling, right? Which even in the Bostock ruling, which said that you couldn't discriminate against trans persons in employment because that's discrimination on the basis of sex. The whoever wrote the opinion, who I forget, I think it was Gorsuch wrote the opinion, said this is not meant to be a catch-all for everything such as bathrooms, locker rooms, and Title IX, So all the federal agencies under Biden interpreted Bostock to mean it was a catch-all and inclusive of everything. So DOE revised Title IX so that men could be in women's locker rooms, and they're still working on having men required to be in women's sports. The Department of Agriculture said no free school lunches for school districts that don't let boys into girls' bathrooms. HHS said, okay, we're going to force all the insurance companies to cover trans medicine and surgeries for everybody, including minors. So every federal agency came back to Biden with how they're going to force LGBTQ gender ideology into every facet of American life. And it was all because of an executive order. So all Trump would have to do is reverse it.
It's already illegal. Title IX. Mm-hmm. Civil Rights Act already made all this stuff. All the DEI stuff is illegal.
Totally illegal.
And this is what's fascinating, and that's why I say culture matters so much more. So I hope everybody understands when I say winning a culture war matters more than winning politics. It's already illegal. You cannot have segregated spaces. We saw in Seattle, they did the DEI space for POC and non-POC or whatever. Illegal. Mm-hmm. How come there's no enforcement? Because the right doesn't have the cultural authority to do anything about it. It's the racists, the Democrats, who have the cultural authority, and police won't enforce this. Lawsuits won't happen. Trump doesn't need to do anything. He just needs to get in and then say, we are going to enforce at the federal level these Title IX. Have an attorney general file lawsuits against any one of these organizations that allows this.
Yeah, every single one. And there already are injunctions against the implementation of the new Title IX rules in a whole bunch of districts because there's a case pending. And so in the states where people who have taken that case there's an injunction against it, and it can't go forward.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned culture being more important than politics, because it really is. And I've seen it more and more on the ground as, the years of my reporting is I love the breaking news stuff. The breaking news stuff is very important. It always goes viral. But the cultural stuff is the stuff that people don't pay attention to. And literally my reporting in San Francisco at Pride, we have naked men bragging about being naked in front of kids, saying it's good for kids and that, they deserve to see it because it's the natural human body. And then you have the kiddie pool where you have men urinating in each other's mouths. And I talk to the cops and they literally say we're not enforcing it because it's a pick your battles day. That is culture that has been cultivated in San Francisco.
Communist cops.
We've been seeing this, in my previous life doing art. This was all happening in the late 2000s and the early 2010s. And it was happening very thoroughly. I got into a disagreement with the women in the feminist theater collective that I was working in when we were trying to hire a composer. And we were saying, well, this is just a women's project. We're just all women working on this project. And the director said, well, women are women identified. And I was like, you want to get a fella in a dress to be our composer? Why? There's a ton of good women composers. We don't need to go get a man. And we had a huge disagreement over whether that should happen or not. And that was like 2015, 2016, something like that we were doing this.
Yeah, feminism is battling with itself over the issue of are men who say they're women actually part of the team?
And when I would bring this up to people who were not in the arts, they would say, "Oh, that's never going to happen. That's never going to break out." And it's like this stuff was beginning, and I was calling attention to it. And I was complaining about it in the arts to my friends way back when. And now it's at the Olympics. Do you know what I mean? Yes, culture is way more important than politics. It's been more important than politics this whole time. And the right just doesn't get on board with that.
It's a floodgate. I mean, the argument is Algeria and Taiwan don't have transgender categories. They don't allow people to change their passports. So these individuals were presumed to be female when they were born. And so we have to figure that out. And that's what they're saying. They're female. It's like, no, they're male. They just thought they were female. And that's fine. That's actually the left's argument that some people can be assigned improperly. We later find out through genetics testing and hormone testing. So with this, we are literally going to have countries that do allow passport changing. And the
United States.
That's right. And the Olympics says that's the criteria. What does your passport say? So do you want to win the Olympics? You get a gold medal, it's worth $1,000. You know, why not?
Hey, at this rate, I might become an Olympic athlete because if it's going to be this easy,
What sport are you going to take
might
up?
as well. I mean, boxing seems like a good one. Honestly, it seems like a pretty fairly easy one. Or weightlifting would be fantastic. You can. We all know men are stronger than women, so
Just get your passport changed because it's easy in the United States, and then you're going to qualify very easily.
oh yeah,
Yeah, the state.
we're gonna win all the gold medals for the USA, baby.
And the USA pays for gold medals.
Oh,
I mean, you might win.
I'm in.
You might win every match by forfeiture.
yeah, but that's okay.
Doesn't matter. Qualifier's qualifier. Let's go to the story from SCNR. Vice President Harris now beating former President Trump on predicted election betting. Predicted is a large online political prediction market, often called a stock market for politics. I'm going to call it now. 49 state landslide Kamala Harris. You heard it here from Tim Pool. Look at this. Predicted says Kamala Harris is going to win, baby. We know it. The polls, general election polls from Civics and Daily Kos, which is far left. Kamala Harris up 4. And then I think we have another one. This is Polymarket betting odds showing that in only about 2 weeks, Trump's odds went from 64% to Kamala's 29% to Trump 54, Kamala 44. And that is as of, I believe, just, is this today? I believe it's today. No, it's yesterday night. So Trump is sinking in the prediction market. Kamala is on the rise. And we've got this from 538. This is Nate Silver's new Silver Bulletin. When it was Joe Biden, he said, the election isn't a toss-up. Biden can't win. Today, he says the presidential election is a toss-up. His new model has this map. All right. Well, based on the leanings here, chance of winning, Pennsylvania is leaning slightly towards Trump. Then you've got Michigan, Harris, Wisconsin, Harris. So it looks like right now, actually, Kamala, so this puts Trump in the favorite position to win, 287 to 251. But Pennsylvania is slim margins, and that's why she's likely going to pick Shapiro, which gives her 270 to win. I'm calling it. It's not really a 49 state landslide, but it looks like Kamala Harris is going to win.
Well, and it's worrisome. The fact that we went from, we knew Trump was going to absolutely smash Biden in every single way, and then they prop up Kamala, and then now you see this massive shift, and a lot of it could be manufactured, but I'm worried that it isn't. You see, I will say, I saw some reporting from the Meg the Stallion concert, and man, how far we
Are you sad to have not been on the ground for that one?
So sad, because it was hilarious. It's like, how far have we fallen as a society that, you have chicks twerking on stage, being vulgar, to open for a presidential candidate. And it says a lot. And, the fact, if America elects Kamala, I think we're cooked. I really do. And it's sad. I try not to black pill.
I think it's a little disconcerting as well. And you also have a thing where, like, you were talking about it being manufactured and perhaps it's not manufactured. I think right now it is 100% a propaganda machine, but there's a reason that propaganda is perpetrated, and it's because it's effective. So all it needs to do is perpetrate enough. All it needs to do is sink in enough, and suddenly, it has been manufactured, yes, but that doesn't mean it's not going to work.
Well, we saw this in 2020, and I think this is the hardest the media machine has worked in a very, very long time. They're working overtime.
And they're lying so hard. Like, there's so many lies. And part of the problem, too, is as conservative and independent media outlets, we have been so effectively sidelined, and the narrative has been so entrenched on the left and in, the popular media and stuff, that it's very hard for us to break through. And it's not just hard for us to break through, it's hard for us to be found by readers and viewers who want to, bust the narrative, who are starting to ask questions.
Well, if X didn't exist, if Elon Musk hadn't bought it, we would be dead in the water.
Screwed.
We'd be absolutely screwed. They'd win every election in a landslide. And the way that you see the sidelining of real media, it speaks a lot on how I think this next election is going to go.
Yeah.
Something doesn't quite make sense here at Predict It, because they've got Kamala at 54 cents yes and Trump at 50 cents yes, and then RFK at 2, and then a bunch of single cents. So my understanding is that it's supposed to equal $1. The idea being that if you were to buy a share of Trump at 50 cents and he wins, then that share is worth $1 to cash out. So how does this make sense?
Doesn't make sense.
Well, it basically means right now if you bought both Kamala and Trump, then what does that mean? You're looking at a guaranteed win? You could bet on both of them?
That's weird.
Somebody's screaming uniparty somewhere.
No, I guess not, because Kamala is going to pay you out from 54 cents. She's the favorite, so you're going to get an additional 46 cents on every 54 cents you bet. For Trump, it's 50 cents on 50 cents. So I guess if they were both slightly lower, you're guaranteed to win. You just bet on both.
Well, I think Trump is making a fatal mistake, too, in the way that he's campaigning. Is one, he's not on X. It would be massively different if he was on X. He needs to come back. He needs to put Truth Social away in the pocket. It's insane that he is still making all his statements on that platform. Like, it makes me think he almost doesn't want to win at this point, especially with all the energy that's behind Kamala. And then he's going to black journalist conventions, which, granted, hilarious. I think it was funny. There was a lot of memes out of it, but memes aren't going to win you an election. This isn't 2016. He needs to be catering to his base, which is white males. And we never see that. We always hear the talk of, the black vote, the Latino vote, all these things, but you never hear the word white. Like at the debate, I remember literally sitting there watching it with my wife, and the amount of times that, black Americans this, black Americans that, but they didn't say anything about a white American a single time throughout the debate. And it just confuses me on, the aspect of why are you catering to a demographic that is not going to vote for you instead of the demographic that is going to overwhelmingly try and put you in office.
I agree with you. And some polling shows that he's actually been losing support among like rural white voters. So it's interesting because it does seem like this is almost taking for granted, which we've accused the Democrats of doing with, voters of color and like voters in the Bronx and stuff like that. I have this kind of weird feeling, which is like, I'm almost glad that it's back to being competitive, because when it was so clear that Trump was going to dominate Biden, there is a like morale raising effect. On the other hand, conservatives, Republicans get so complacent. And I almost think there is a benefit in back to having to say like, you have to work for this. You have to earn the voters. We have to go back to the drawing board, reevaluate how Donald Trump is campaigning. We have to be serious about winning this. And part of that is getting people to the polls. I just think I know so many people be like, well, if he's going to win, I won't even go. Like, that's what frustrates me. I do think that Donald Trump is doing a bad job of playing into the media cycle, like you've both mentioned. They're really lockstep. Kamala Harris, those two white guys on the Republican ticket are bad, and just hammering everything home. Whereas I feel like actually Trump should stop doing stuff with mainstream media, and we should stop talking to them for a while. He should only go to alternative outlets and independent, because number one, they've been there for him for a long time, and also it's the only way to break this iron grip they have on the cycle.
I think you make a really good point, because if Trump started just doing things with, Timcast and Post Millennial and Tenet and Daily Wire and all of the other dailies out there, and then the mainstream legacy outlets would have to cover what all of us little guys are doing, and that would be a way that, but they don't want to do that.
No, they don't want to do that. And to your point, like, yeah, maybe it would be more effective. You get more direct punches if Trump were on X. On the other hand, the reason Truth Social worked is because everyone had to go there to hear from him, right? And so in some ways, like, he should come on platforms like this. He should talk to Post Millennial. He should talk to small local newspapers. He should never grant a major outlet an interview again, because it completely shifts back to the populist nature of his campaign. It's ridiculous to say, it's fine if you want to go campaign on race issues. You want to go to the Black Professionals event and whatever, but I just don't think that's as effective as returning to the populist roots and saying, I don't want to talk to, the corporate elites or people who are being presented by them. I want to talk to people who are my key core supporters all the way through.
That's what Charlie Kirk keeps saying, is like, go hard on the base and get the base out. Yeah. Just get the base out. Just do that.
Well, that's why Trump said, Christians, my beautiful Christians, I'm a Christian. You got to vote for me.
Catholics for Trump.
You got to come out. You got to vote just this once. You got to vote for me, and then you never got to do it again. I'll fix it so good you'll never have to vote again.
And the media said he was being a dictator.
That's right. But that's why he said it, because he's like, they don't vote.
No.
Conservatives don't vote.
Well, that's the problem with conservatism too. It's like, what are you conserving if you're not willing to actually go out and vote for your candidate? It's insane.
Isn't our religion,
And I get that, but it's like, if you want to actually
have
effective religious beliefs, you want abortion restrictions, you want all these things as a Christian,
but
you need to have a candidate that's willing to do it. And if you're not going to vote, you're never going to have one.
Libby, you are correct that for the left, this is their church. And so the polling station is them tithing. It's their church. And for the right, they're like, I'm going to go to church. But that's shocking to me because imagine having a mandate from God himself. And then you're like, but I'm not going to participate.
Well, literally,
that feels
Christian
like
faith,
empty words.
We are called to try and make the world essentially as Christian as we can. We're supposed to bring as many people to heaven with us as possible, and we're supposed to instate policies. We are literally required to instate policies that reflect our faith. But now you see this almost basically cucked out version of Christianity, and we saw it at the Olympics. You see it all around the world. People criticize Christianity and mock Christianity on a level that we've never seen before, but you never see the same energy for Islam or Judaism or other religions because people realize that modern day Christianity, these people aren't going to stand up for what they believe in. They're not going to actually vote their beliefs in.
That's all it is. And I'll stress this too. You know, after the Olympics scandal with the opening ceremony mocking the Last Supper and Christianity, many people made the point, or they would never do this with Islam, and so did I. But I got no beef with Islam on this one. They did not insult Christianity. Certainly the Abrahamic religions are at odds often, but they didn't say anything. No. I'm mad with the left in claiming that it's hate speech. You're not allowed to offend us, but then they decide that they can't offend. However, we know why they wouldn't ever dare offend Islam. And it's because
It gets bombed.
It's because Islam is not going to accept it, be it as extreme as a terror attack. We saw what happened with Charlie Hebdo. We saw what happened with that. But Christians won't do anything. And I'm not saying anything near as crazy as that. I'm saying they don't vote. You'd think that seeing the Olympics would light a fire under every Christian in this nation, even if they're non-practicing, just to be like, wow, things are getting out of hand. I better go vote. I'm hoping that's the case. I'm hoping that's the case.
I can tell you right now it isn't, because I did a man on the street the other day, literally in Utah, which granted a lot of people are LDS. Personally, I wouldn't classify that as Christian, but they believe in Jesus Christ. They believe in the Holy Trinity. They like Jesus Christ. And I talked to a lot of these people, and I showed them this image where they watched the ceremony, and they're like, no, it's not mocking God. And it's like, how is that not mocking Christians when it's literally on display? The lead organizer of that, the girl that was in the middle, posted on her Instagram story saying it was a Last Supper and that they were mocking it directly. But you have a lot of Christians that are just scared to stand up. And I really don't understand it as somebody. I vote. I do all the things. I want my values instated. We see that with Islam. I mean, look at what's going on in Europe right now. They're quite literally taking over. Their religion is taking over completely, and it's because that they believe their values should be instated in the government, and that's what's wrong with modern day Christians, and it's disheartening as one, because it's like, when are you guys going to stand up?
But I think part of it is that we have a lot of Christians in name only, right? People who maybe went to church on Easter and Christmas, and they would check the box saying they're Christian, but they don't practice at all. It doesn't actually help them frame their decision making. These are often the same people who are saying, like, I'm so lost in life. I don't know what my purpose is. I feel incomplete, right? Like, there are people who know they are lacking something, but also don't actually pursue any sort of religious practice. They're the ones saying, oh, well, no, Joe Biden is Catholic. He's definitely Catholic, right? He's for sure. He's for abortion, but that's fine. I mean, they would never hold themselves to a standard because they don't actually want to have to adhere to these higher
There was an interesting thing where, wasn't it like the Archbishop of San Francisco or something like that was saying that he wouldn't give Nancy Pelosi communion because of her stance on abortion. So
a couple of them have.
Yeah, so I was and people were like horrified that the Archbishop would do that. I was in the Chicago Art Institute recently, and is it that where it was? Anyway, there was this big painting of this this knight being excommunicated because he wouldn't apologize and look for forgiveness for having committed some horrible war atrocities. So there is precedent for just kicking people out because of what they do in their public life.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Catholics don't, Catholics for a very long time do not stand up for that. And I think a lot of that goes back to disagreements over birth control and abortion.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm glad that you mentioned, Christians in name only, because that is, sadly, it is the largest population of Christians in the world. I'm pretty sure it's something along the lines of over 80% of Christians don't read their Bible. Mm-hmm. And it may be once a year, which is absolutely insane. That is your book of faith that is God's word, and you're not going to read your Bible. Instead, you say, no, I'm Christian, I believe in Christ, but they never actually practice the values. I was very happy to actually see it. Was funny. They literally did the meme of where you have all the raging leftists and, all the abortionists on one side screeching, and then it's the Muslim and the Christian standing together. And it's like, together? Yes. And, Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate came out in Romania, and they held a little mock protest. And, they had the visual of the Last Supper and then what happened at the Olympics. And it's like, that's what we need. We're more similar to Muslims, and I don't support their religion, but at least they respect Jesus Christ and they're anti-abortion. And, you need to be essentially voting in the polls like Islam does, and they do. I mean, they've taken over France, they've taken over all these places, but Christians are just too scared to actually come out and be real Christians.
There were a lot of my friend.
Exactly.
Right. There were a lot of Muslim parents, I believe, in Michigan who protested against the transgender ideology being brought into schools, right? Like, there are things that they are saying we're not willing to tolerate because of our religious beliefs. And I don't know why when Christians do that, they get so embarrassed.
Well,
right?
there's literally a place in Florida, I forget the name of it, where Muslims banned the use of pride flags and trans flags in their city. They banned all of that, and then you had a bunch of people freaking out.
Hammontrank?
I think so. It's somewhere fairly close to. It's like an hour away from Port Charlotte area, but I think something in Michigan did too. But even in Florida, like, you see them doing this time and time again. But Christians are like, oh no, inclusivity, that's okay. We need to turn the other cheek, and they're reading the Bible wrong.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump to this story. We have this from The Hill. Progressives sound alarm as Shapiro VP stock rises. So I think this is maybe the story here. Governor Josh Shapiro cancels trip to the Hamptons amid speculation over him being picked as Kamala Harris running mate. I think it is a strong probability that this man will be the VP pick for Kamala Harris. Reason being, it's Pennsylvania. She wants to win that state. She wants to get a big bump there. Trump is currently slightly ahead, so it makes sense. Only one big problem for Democrats. He's Jewish. Oof. Progressives sound alarm. I wonder why they are mad. One letter signed by nearly 50 progressive leaders pointed to Shapiro's shortcomings as a national candidate and urged the vice president to consider Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz instead. With the compressed timeline ahead of us to defeat the Trump Vance MAGA threat, we simply cannot afford any setbacks. A letter from another progressive group known as VP Unity said Harris's consideration of Shapiro has set off alarm bells among young voters, Muslims, Arab Americans, and activists. Gee, I wonder what they're concerned about with Shapiro. Is there anything that some progressive critics of Shapiro say his response to the pro-Palestinian protests in PA, which they labeled as heavy-handed, could impact the Harris-Shapiro ticket more negatively than his views on the Israel-Hamas war more generally.
It's going to be very interesting to see how the DNC turns out. I'm going to be there on the ground, and I think the precursor of how that's going to go was the anti-Netanyahu protest in D.C. a week ago.
Body armor?
I have body armor, but I'll always take some more.
What level is it?
It's level 3A, so no rifle defense, but handguns.
We've got some flexible rifle armor systems. You know what that is? It's multi-plated ceramic.
Oh, I'll take it.
It can withstand multiple rifle rounds.
I'll take it. The wife will be very pleased with that. She's been talking to me. She's like, give me some plates.
So, plates typically can handle about one.
Yep.
If you're lucky, maybe more. But the flexible rifle armor system it's octagonal ceramic plates all separated. So when one shatters, so long as you don't get hit in the same spot again, the other ones, and you may need it.
Yeah, I'm gonna take you up on that. No, I think this is the perfect opportunity for something to happen is at the DNC, and I think we're going to see something happen, whether it's low scale riots, somebody getting hurt or actually killed, and especially
break in.
Or they're going to break in because the security isn't going to be as tight as it was at the RNC with Trump there. So there's a lot of possibilities of what's going to happen. A lot of reporters are going to be on ground.
Vice president. I mean,
yeah, but if they pick Shapiro when that pro-Palestinian crowd is outside, man, I can't even imagine the chaos that's going to ensue.
Oh, there's going to be fires, and probably worse. In I think what was it 2020 was virtual because of COVID, but 2016 they actually. So this is really funny. At the RNC in 2016 is boring. I thought the RNC would have more protests. I was at the RNC in 2012 and the DNC, and the protests were both kind of meh. And we thought it would be bigger because of Occupy. 2016, I thought RNC would be a lot bigger because of the way things were going with Donald Trump. Nope, there was a march. So whatever. Nothing really happened. Went inside, looked around. What was it? Jimmy Dore spit on Alex Jones. So, that happened. Yeah. And then at the DNC that year, they had much taller barricades, and the far left were there in the thousands, and they were rioting, and they were trying to jump the barricades. I think they actually did jump the barricades, and it was chaos. And it was actually surprising. I was like, I didn't realize the DNC was going to be the crazier one, but it's because they shafted Bernie Sanders. So now I'm wondering what the progressives are going to say when there wasn't even a primary, when they completely shut out any possibility of a progressive candidate and installed Kamala Harris.
And I think that the biggest concern with them is going to be the fact that they realize that this administration, no matter what, is going to be pro-Israel. And we know that this is the exact opposite of what this crowd currently protesting is advocating for with the Netanyahu stuff. And I think we're going to see some violence break out, but especially at the DNC, it's going to be very concentrated. And all you need to know about this movement is it's literally 2020 all over again when it comes with BLM is there, Antifa's there. I literally saw Lisa Fithian, who is a very renowned organizer. I got a video of her. Like, anytime that something goes wrong, Lisa Fithian is there, and she is going to be there. I have seen her time and time again at the protests that turn full-scale riots, and this is all the same movement. They attach themselves, Antifa and BLM, to any organization or any movement that they see some sort of revolution taking place in. And literally, the UCLA coverage that I did, the organization, the tactics that they were using, passing umbrellas, passing wood for, shields and protection, the way that they attacked and organized against cops. This is Antifa. It's not full scale 2020 yet, but it's going to get there.
Let me ask you a question, you young whippersnapper. How old are you?
24.
24 years old. I'll tell you, back in the day when I was 25, talking 13 years ago, and I'm down at Occupy Wall Street. I had my run-ins at these events with the Antifa. We didn't call them Antifa at the time. We called them Black Bloc because they weren't really aligned with anything. They weren't anarchists. They claimed to be, but they weren't really. Lisa Fithian was down there. And there was a group that we referred to as the tourists. These were activists that appeared at every protest all across the country and internationally. And we often wondered how it could be that some random leftist marching in the street of New York was in Turkey. And they were.
Yeah.
And they were in China, too. And that was very strange. When I saw one of these tourists marching at a protest in China, they were posting the videos. I was just like, how in China of all places? Now, the Turkey one was hilarious because I'm just thinking, like, these people are CIA, dude.
Yep.
Like, you're in Turkey, several of these same people, and it's a coincidence? Dude, spare me.
Well, and Lisa Fithian especially, her case is very weird because she's been around for a very long time. Like you said, she was around with Occupy even before that.
She's like 67 years old.
Yeah, and she is not stopping. But seriously, almost any time that I have been in a full-scale riot that kicks off very fastly and aggressively, Lisa is somewhere to be found. There's a picture of her snapped. You run into her on the ground. I had a confrontation with her in 2020 about the Sunrise Zoom calls. And, then, of course, she just threatened me and said she should have brought her pepper spray, whole 9 yards. But it's like the same people. There's no coincidences when it comes to organizing a riot. Well, these people are probably working for intel agencies of
what they do, and I can tell you this firsthand, having been at these organizing meetings, is a small group of individuals planning what they call direct action will say, how many people do we expect to have on this day? Okay. The plans usually break down to slightly more complicated than this because they'll say something like, once we get to Fifth Avenue, we'll make a left, blah, blah, blah. But they usually revolve around, at this time, we're going to have one of our guys go into the middle of the crowd and throw a bottle at the police. Yep. And that will cause the police to attack the crowd. Now, what they do is they'll go to the university and they'll say, hey, why don't you join our peaceful march for insert cause? These people will be like, sure. They'll then show up on like the day of, and they'll go to people and be like, hey, you're going to come to the march. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a peaceful march in support of this. You support this, don't you? They rally as many people as possible to show up. These are normie college students who don't really pay attention, have heard a little bit in school about, patriarchy or something. And then they're marching down the streets doing nothing. People are chanting. They have no idea what they're chanting. My favorite story that I love to tell is when they were chanting anticapitalista, anti-capitalist, and the group was saying gibberish. And I was filming one guy and he was like, Antiba Bida Bisto. And I was like, what are you saying? And he's like, oh, I'm just chanting. I was like, I know, what did you say? And he's like, I don't know.
That literally is exactly what's happening at these Palestinian protests right now.
And what happens then is, that's the goal of the direct action. They want to get as many of these people who have no idea what's going on and are bored to show up. Then they will intentionally go into the middle of the crowd of normies, chuck a water bottle at the cops. The cops will then declare an unlawful assembly, and the people in front will be like, what? And the cops will start shoving with their batons, and these 20-year-old women are going, I'm being hit. I don't know why I'm being hit. And then they're freaking out. One of two things then happens. In New York, they do what's called kettling, where they will pull out a big orange net and wrap it around you and arrest the entire group, and send them to jail, or people will then be pushed by cops, hit, bruised a little bit, and leave. In either circumstance, after the normie is struck by the cop, being totally confused to what happened, that's when the far leftists come in and say, I saw that cop hit you. Man, cops are evil, aren't they? Or you'll get arrested and go to jail. And these young women mostly young women are in jail, but some young men, and they're confused and scared. They've never been arrested before. And the activists are in there with them saying, this is what the system is like. It's evil. This is what they do. They're evil. You have to join us and fight against them. And then they sing songs together. They say, you're scared. Don't worry. Don't cry. We're going to sing a song. I love you. And then they hug. It is cult building 101. And then these kids get out and they're just like, we're friends now. Hey, come to our next meeting. And that's how they recruit. And that's how they build anti-U.S. sentiment and leverage the police against the people. One of the reasons they really hated me during Occupy was that I was live streaming everything. And so they said to me, only film the police.
Yep. And
I was like, I'm going to film everything. And they were like, okay, but don't film us. I actually was at Deutsche Bank, and one of the activists grabbed me and said, hey, can I talk to you outside? And he goes, look, man, just film the cops. You're with us, right? And I'm like, what do you mean am I with you? And they're like, you want us to win? And I'm like, win what, dude? Yep. And he's like, we want to topple this. We want to change things. And I was like, okay, well, don't be evil. And he's like, dude, the cops are evil too. So just film them and let us do our thing. And I was like, I'm going to film literally everybody and let the people decide. And so they were like, okay. And then you can Google search it, Tim Pool attacked at Occupy over and over and over again.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that and went into detail on how it works. Because not a lot, I mean, most people don't actually understand, but when you're a reporter and you're on the ground, you see it all the time. People chanting, literally, they have no idea what they're even there for. They were just dragged into it. And, I saw that firsthand at UCLA, where you had a lot of college normies. You had people that literally weren't even students there, and they were just there because they were told to be there. And then the police, start attacking, even though they were, organized first and attacked first. And then now you have all these people getting slowly radicalized. And especially in Portland, when it comes to they would always tell you, and in Portland's different, you have to dress up in black bloc. They will attack you on sight if they see press. And, they're not friendly at all. And this is what led to me recording only on my cell phone, because why am I going to bring an expensive camera if they're just going to shatter it and make me a target? So you dress up in black bloc, and then you either talk to the police beforehand, let them know that you're going to be there, some sort of identifying mark that you have. But my tactic and other reporters is you always turn your back on the police, because you're expected to only film the police because they're the bad guys. And, you basically show them a blue line flag or something along those lines. So then they see you and they're like, okay, why is this guy flashing that? It must be a reporter. And it works. And then a lot of the times when the attacking starts, and this is the whole purpose of what you call Antifa press, which they're everywhere. And they're literally to dox people that are real reporters and are actually going to document faces and document what's going on. But then they spin the narrative afterwards, because they're filming the police. They show that what looks like the police attack, but they also just cut out the Molotov cocktail that was thrown right before that, or the multiple frozen water bottles, or the pee balloons, the feces balloons that, Antifa disgusting. Portland uses. And I've seen it firsthand. I mean, it happens at every single one of these things.
There's a good example of this during Occupy Wall Street, where they made a video of a cop swinging his baton, but they changed it to a lightsaber. And the cop is just wildly swinging at people, and it's crazy. And the narrative they framed was cops violently attack peaceful protesters. Of course, they cut out the first 10 seconds where they hit the cop first, where they were shaking the barricades in unison together, and then one guy knocked his hat off. He stumbles backwards, and then he holds his baton to the side and pushes them. They push back. He pushes them again. They start pushing against him, so then he starts swinging, and they go, got him.
This is the exact same thing that literally happened in D.C. like a week ago. Is the march, I already knew something was going to happen. You can get that feeling when you've been on the ground long enough. And that first barrier outside the Capitol, I was like, this is the clinch point where something's going to happen. And I'm standing there, and then the police are perfectly fine, not gas masked up, not in riot gear, nothing. They're just holding their bikes, holding the police line. And then all of a sudden you see a few water bottles thrown at their heads. And then you start seeing people get pushed to the front that aren't actually a part of the initial group, attacking people, and they start getting the pepper spray. And then you keep seeing the water bottles, then you see them throw their gas masks on, and then it turns into a riot.
We got to jump to this story. This is breaking. U.S. recognizes opposition candidate Gonzalez as the winner of Venezuela's
boy.
presidential election. So if you thought this DNC was going to be crazy before, now you've got the U.S. government claiming the socialist leader of Venezuela is a loser who cheated, and the real winner is Edmundo Gonzalez. So this is going to fan the flames probably a little bit, but it will. AP reports the U.S. government on Thursday recognized Venezuelan opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez as the winner of the South American country's presidential election, discrediting the results announced by electoral authorities who declared President Nicolas Maduro the victor. Given the overwhelming evidence, it is clear to the U.S. and most importantly to Venezuelan people that Edmundo Gonzalez, how do you pronounce that, Urrutia, won the most votes in Venezuela's July 28th presidential election. The National Electoral Council declared Maduro the winner of Sunday's highly anticipated election, but the president's main challenger Gonzalez and opposition leader Maria Corina Machado have said they have obtained more than 2/3 of the tally sheets that each electronic voting machine printed after the polls closed. They said the release of the data on those tallies would prove Maduro lost. So what do you think happens now? I mean, the U.S. recognizes doesn't change anything for the people in Venezuela. Maduro is still going to go massacre and arrest his opposition.
Well, I think there was another country that came out and said that they don't recognize Maduro as the true winner, too. So you're starting to see multiple countries come out.
I think it's more than two, yeah.
It makes you wonder, if there is something deeper going on with the CIA, some sort of coup, if this candidate is propped up in a certain way. But, I mean, Maduro, I'm not going to defend him. The guy is garbage. He is a terrible human being. What he's done to Venezuela is disgusting. But I've been seeing so much propaganda on Twitter and different social media platforms, but specifically X, on people that go down to Venezuela and they're like, no, Maduro won. There's no rioting going on, but then you look where they're at and they're in 5-star hotels, in resorts, and it's like, you guys aren't actually reporting on what's going on the ground. I think there's a lot more to this than what is being shown. But it makes you wonder if this is a propped up candidate. But sometimes, the propped up candidates are better. Let's be honest here.
Do you think we'll see the evidence that the opposition is saying they have? Because I've heard reporting that they haven't released it yet. The other side is saying, no, we have proof that we definitely won correctly. I mean, it seems like everyone's keeping their cards kind of close to the vest as chaos ensues. You don't think it'll come out?
No, I don't think it'll ever come out.
I've seen more evidence that the 2020 U.S. election was rigged than I've seen that Venezuela's was rigged. Mm-hmm. I don't believe Venezuela's election was fair. I think Maduro is a cheater.
Yeah, it's Venezuela. So.
Right. And what I mean by the evidence of 2020 is not that anything's been adjudicated. I do believe that it was the shadow campaign and Zuckerbucks and what the Time magazine article referred to as a conspiracy is what got Democrats the victory for
fortifying the election.
Right. Yep. It's funny to see the U.S. coming out and being like, we've seen enough. Venezuela cheated. And
we're
I'm like,
actually against voter fraud.
You didn't see anything. What proof has the U.S. seen over anything? Well, they told us.
Yeah, it's very hard to know anything that's going on anywhere at any point.
But do you see like far leftists losing their minds over this?
There is some on Twitter, yeah. There's some that are very, very angry. But I don't think, this will factor into... I wouldn't want to be in Venezuela ever because I'm smart and I value my life and I know what goes on there. I mean, this is the same country that people literally walk past dead and slaughtered bodies on their way to work every day and they think it's normal. But I don't think this is going to have a big indicator on like the potential riot outside the DNC. I think this is going to be... When that turns into a riot, it's going to be because Josh Shapiro is most likely going to be the VP, and they know that the Uniparty, they're both pro-Israel, so either way, you're going to see something.
Yeah.
You think this hits the DNC?
I don't think this will affect the DNC that much. I think you might hear utters or words of it, between the protesters. Yeah. They'll have some signs, but the main priority is going to be what they call the genocide in Gaza. That's what they're going to be hyper-fixating on.
Because everyone has Israel derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's just obsessed with Israel. No one cares about any other conflict. There's huge conflicts going on in North Africa right now.
I was going to say, I think progressives generally pretend to be, very aware of what's happening on the international stage, but they don't care. I mean, very few things have gotten them to protest the way the Israel-Palestine issue has.
They don't care at all about Ukraine anymore. They only care about the Israel.
Well, it has the most steam behind it, so they're going to throw all their cards in on it.
Were you here when the super chatter was like, if Israel suffers, then I'll vote for Kamala Harris. Like it's better.
Yeah.
And that's not the first time we've gotten those chats where they're just like, it is better that Kamala Harris wins because then it's bad for Israel. And I'm just like, imagine being so America last that you're
insane.
I don't care about America at all. I just hate Israel, so I'll vote for Kamala Harris.
Well, and I understand, the gripes with the Israel lobby and stuff in America. I get that. I understand it. I understand if you don't like Israel. I'm not a giant fan of what we're seeing happening in Gaza. I mean, I think it's nasty. I don't like war. I'm anti-war in every single aspect. But then it completely overshadows also what's happening between Ukraine and Russia. You literally have white men killing white men over what? I mean, what's the point here? And we're
Access to the
infinitely
Black
funding
Sea.
it. Exactly. But I mean, like if Trump gets in office, I think the Black Sea and the places that have been taken is going to be handed to Putin. That's how you end this conflict. Does
You
that
already had Zelensky the other day being like, "Oh yeah, what we really need to start doing is looking for peace." We're going for it.
No,
That's the key
which is
thing.
absolutely
But
insane.
the thing with Israel and Kamala and everything else, like the most important things to me in this election have nothing to do with foreign affairs. I care about American manufacturing. I think we should be making our own pharmaceuticals here at home so that we're not importing it from everywhere else. I think that's really important. I think that we need to put a big stop on illegal immigration. I think we need to really, hold that. And I think we need to become energy independent. And if we do those three things, we're going to create jobs for Americans, good jobs with health insurance and all of the other things that good jobs have, like 2 weeks vacation and, a good salary, and you can raise your family. And all American families will be boosted by that too, because jobs like that would make it so ideally both parents don't have to be out of the home 8 hours a day, and would be able to bring back the ability of families to support themselves and be part of vital and vibrant communities. And people could start really putting down roots. I mean, that's the big thing when you have big companies that are in towns and areas and regions. People can put down roots, not just the people that work for that company, but the people that support all the workers there.
But what we're seeing now is young men going to the right and young women going to the left. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if for women there is not a large biological pressure relative to social pressure. And so these women are voting for policies that are anti-family, anti-child. So, I don't know, why do you think it is that young men are going in this direction, young women are going the other direction?
Loneliness is a big thing. Is the dating culture has been completely destroyed.
But not women?
I mean, for women though,
there's a huge education
there's a big
disparity.
difference too. Is men? I mean, women. I've always said it this way: women can pretty much get any man they want. Not any man, obviously. There's obviously going to be some people out of their league. But with men, it's different in the dating pool of where you actually have to fight with competitors, especially in such a competitive dating pool. That men, I'm pretty sure there was a report that came out that men are the loneliest they've ever been in a very, very long time. And loneliness is going to radicalize people, especially young men. I mean, you see the way that the right has completely shifted, especially with my demographic, the Gen Z demographic. They're tired of it. They're tired of the OnlyFans stuff. I always say this, you can't even compare America to Weimar levels of degeneracy. Granted, we are just as, if not even more degenerate, but in Weimar Germany, these women didn't want to prostitute themselves. They had to because the economy, because of everything that was happening. But in America now, people are willingly being prostitutes and celebrating.
I don't know. Do you really for OnlyFans? You think women want this, or do you think it's just opportunity?
I think it's a question about culture and the different messaging that men and women get. I think it was our Surgeon General. He declared that we have a loneliness epidemic, but the way that men and women respond to social pressures is very different. And I think for a lot of men, you're right, they could become radicalized or just generally turn in and be like, this isn't working and I'm not happy, so I'm going to do the opposite of whatever, mainstream culture is telling me. Mainstream culture is largely progressive now. With women, I think that you have to take seriously the influence of birth control. And I think that birth control, with the combination of feminist ideology, really tells women to go against their natural biological instincts and to look at men as their enemies as opposed to, an opposite and equal complementary partner in life. And it tells them, both the pill literally changes the way they feel the impulses to have children and to settle down and to find romantic partners, but also they are told constantly that actually if you do those things, if you leave the workforce, you're letting down all the women who came before you, who fought for your right to sit in a cubicle all day,
because
which
it's
is
a
crazy.
religion.
Right, it's a religion in the absence of religion, and I think that's
in the absence of a God. The God is the self, and so that's why you have to do so much self-care, and you have to worship your gender, and you have to self-actualize and figure out your identity and broadcast that, because the self is God in the leftist religion.
Well, and you have, I think another reason why you see a lot of young men also going, to the far right or to the right is because of religion, is because of the loneliness. the best time to embrace God throughout history for everybody. I mean, and pretty much anybody that fully embraces Christ, or whether it's they come Muslim faith, any of these other faiths, is because they are lonely, they're in a bad spot in their life, and then they find Christ, or they find some sort of God that they believe in, and they attach themselves to that. And being Christian is inherently right wing, and you see a drastic shift of young Gen Zers starting to embrace Christ right now. You see all the Templar memes, you see everything that's going around. I mean, that is basically a subculture that's being made, and young men are embracing that. They're latching themselves onto bodybuilding, which is right wing, taking care of your physical self, and then now they're trying to take care of their spirituality, and that is typically right wing.
Do you think that the birth control effect on women was intentional or accidental?
I think it's accidental, largely because I don't think people understood, and I still don't think they understand what the long-term consequences of birth control are. I mean, I know I had friends who would get on it. I've had so many female friends get on it for all kinds of reasons, right? Whether it's because they wanted to have sex, or more commonly, like, you have really bad acne.
You have cramps.
You have cramps. Yep. This is irregular, whatever. Like, it's this catch-all, fix for any kind of female hormonal issue, rather than let's figure out your hormones.
All the prep school girls when I was 16, every single one of us.
All of them. But then
for random
the other part
reasons.
Is like I have known so many girls who develop really serious anxiety or depression, and their doctor says, like, no, that can't be because of birth control. It has to be because of something else. Let's give you antidepressants. And when you look at birth control research, there's a ton of conflicting information about the risks in terms of cancer or other things. So I think, we force fed a generation birth control as this miracle pill. And I understand women will say, oh, well, it made it so women didn't have to have all these children, which is mostly a warped narrative. Right. But I think we mass prescribe it, and we prescribe it at increasingly younger and younger ages without really knowing what the effect is. And long term, we are
alters
going to
women
pay
forever.
the cultural consequences.
We know one of the big effects, according to Pete Buttigieg, is that it makes men have more freedom.
Which is insane.
For women to
He's
be on birth
He's saying it
control
out loud.
and to be able to have abortion.
Like, you can just go and be reckless as a man, have unprotected sex, because now that gives us more freedom.
And it's on the woman.
That's a culture that we live in too. And it's like,
I was on birth control for a long time until I was like, oh, I would like to have a child.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like a switch flipped in my
Mind clarity.
brain. And I was like, oh my God, have I really been suppressing all of this about myself this whole time?
well, and it's time and time again, we literally see the negative hormonal changes that come with birth control. But I think at first it might have been an accident, but now
personality
it's
stuff.
intentional,
But
because
it's also weird personality stuff. Like, you do think that you're sort of like, I thought I was antisocial and depressed.
Yep.
And it turns out that I'm not any of those things.
You're just
and
getting
I
a
never
flood of
was.
hormones that aren't supposed to be in your body
Right.
in that certain
and
manner.
So it like really messes you up.
I think it's crazy that we wouldn't look at this as a cause, but you can't attack birth control because then you're anti-feminist and you're anti-science, even though the science is always muddled and they never go into I doubt there's been any woman who's been sat down, being like, oh, I want the pill, and they're like, okay, here's the honest answers about your risk for cancer
Well,
or
they
for
don't tell
long-term
you anything
hormonal
about
disruptive.
that. And
no, they don't.
For teen girls, doctors will prescribe it to you without giving you any information at all.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember this story? This is, what are we looking at, 6 years ago. How our drinking water
boy.
could help prevent
Oh
suicide.
my goodness.
Some researchers think putting lithium in our water could save lives.
Oh my goodness. Between that and the frogs and the
So the original title of
Flush
this article was something
medication.
like Future Perfect Podcast, Lithium in the Water to Prevent Suicide. That just basically means they'd like to drug you.
Well, and they do. I mean, America's food, with all the dyes, with everything. I mean, America is literally poisoning their own citizens, and they have been for the longest time. I mean, Luke can speak on this fantastic. My wife literally makes a career out of this, of telling people, she calls it the ancestral diet, from what I'm aware of. And it's meat, eggs, it's real food that hasn't been processed and doesn't have all this poison in it. And I can tell you, from a bodybuilding perspective, my life completely changed. My brain completely changed when I moved away from eating processed stuff to actually eating steak, chicken, eggs, real food that is made for us, that is given to us from God, and isn't bioengineered 150 times and is just literally human sludge. I mean, it's in our drinking water, it's in our food, it's in the air, it's in every single aspect of life. And at this point, it's 100% intentional. But hormones, people do not understand how important hormones are when it comes to living a good quality of life. Most suicidal ideations, all these things that you see in society today, it's because people have messed up hormones, and it's not hard to fix.
Whatever happened to that story about the birth control being in the drinking water in cities? Remember that?
That was because people flush it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or no, I thought it was that it gets peed out by women, goes into the water, and can't be filtered out or something.
There's a lot of stuff like that, not there? I don't remember what specifically happened with the birth control one, but people flush their leftover medication.
I've heard both.
And
with
there's
the
a
birth
lot
control
of
thing.
and there's a lot of medication that comes out like in your pee, you know?
I've heard people say like you have to be very careful about filtering the water you drink. You cannot drink tap water no matter where you are because of the risks of both, hormones through birth control or because of other things. And it's interesting because
I filter.
it's like the beginning of the tinfoil hat experience, right?
Yep.
Like if you don't trust the
you know,
water.
you're gonna buy chickens.
On the other hand,
start
like
raising chickens.
we know they all cut corners and they all lie. I mean, it really benefits Big Pharma to have this easy, this easy to produce drug, birth control, that they can say, hey, Libby, you think you have bad cramps? You have it. And Taylor, you have too much testosterone. You get this too. Everyone gets the same thing, and we'll just mass prescribe it. Like someone benefits from lying
Brave
to
New
you.
World, and all of the children are gestated in pods, and no one has any joy.
Well, I literally had to sit through 3.5 hours of it was the white dudes.
Oh, that's
for Kamala.
right. You were on that.
And man,
He's acting like
the
he didn't wanna be there. He's a
testosterone
big
levels.
Kamala guy.
Yeah, huge Kamala guy. No, but the testosterone levels. I made a joke after because I made this graphic.
It was like these people just man bunning us.
Yeah, well, and I made
picture.
this graphic, and it was like, physiognomy wins every single time. Low testosterone is bad physiognomy the most of the time. I mean, you are not a man without literally your reproduction hormone, testosterone. And I made the joke underneath it, and that picture went super viral. It was everywhere, all over all the platforms, because it's just like
That was your man bun thing.
Yeah, it was the man bun thing, and it had like I think it was 9 people from the lineup, and the physiognomy was just awful. It's like these men don't have an ounce of testosterone. But I made a joke of like, when I am president, which obviously I'm never running for office, but I was like, I will mandate, state enforced TRT injections into men, because testosterone levels are awful. And that is why you see men voting, overwhelmingly for Democrats in a lot of instances, or you see men accepting the feminization of themselves and wanting to wear dresses and do all these things. And there's been studies that come out that the more testosterone a man has, the more right wing he becomes. So it's like, let's just juice all these guys up on testosterone because we got microplastics in our balls. We're drinking poison, eating poison on a daily basis. Like one TRT shot, and these guys are going to be right wing at this point.
Yeah, but doesn't it have like side effects?
There's some.
Like make your balls small?
Yeah, I mean, it shuts down your natural production, but at the same time,
That's not a good thing.
but HCG exists for a reason. HMG, Clomid, there's so many things. I mean, bodybuilders, they all
Ozempic
have
makes
kids.
People bald.
Yeah, I mean, there are side effects to absolutely anything,
That's
but it's
why
also
I don't want to take anything ever.
but the side effects of like not being a man, in my mind, are much worse than if you're going to take TRT.
Boost your testosterone?
You can,
like exercise,
diet,
and stuff?
exercise, so many things, but we've been absolutely destroyed as men in this country with all the stuff that's in our food and in media and throughout so many things that you can only boost it to a certain amount. I remember when I went and got my first testosterone test done years ago when I was unhealthy. I think they said my test was like 400, which is absolutely insane. They're like, oh, that's normal levels. And it's like, that is not normal levels.
right?
That's significantly low by a 20-year-ago margin. But every single year that, natural testosterone production, the rates go down, and then they change what they consider to be normal levels.
Remember this story from Daily Weight? It's Classics Day here at Timcast. We're pulling up the classics. BuzzFeed guys test their testosterone levels. The results are exactly what you'd expect. I mean, this is sad. It's a really old story, but these 4 guys had T levels that were comparable to 80-year-old men. And weren't they like in their 20s or something?
Well, see, now they consider that healthy. Literally, what used to be the 80-year-old level
this.
for
It's
testosterone is healthy for
617.
20-year-olds.
They said the normal T-score for adult male ranges from 270 to 1,070, with men aged 25 to 34 averaging at around 617 NGDL. Not one BuzzFeed beta male met that standard. Rather, all the men tested below the level of a typical 85-year-old male at 376. Moreover, 3 of the 4 men tested below the average range, and the male with the highest testosterone level, Eugene, still had a low T-score of 363. Wow.
Yeah, men, get your testosterone above 1,000 nanograms per deciliter, and your life will significantly improve in every single aspect. There's no denying.
Well, what could men do, Taylor, to improve their testosterone? I heard nicotine increases it.
Nicotine, well, so some forms of nicotine, overuse of nicotine doesn't increase it.
Is that why you have Zyn over there?
Yeah, I love me some Zen, of course. Not endorsed, of course. But, I mean, just watching, not watching, but lifting, exercising, getting your heart rate elevated, not too elevated, obviously. You see a lot of the sprinters and they're scrawny. They're not really men. But weightlifting is going to drastically improve your testosterone levels. Eating real food, red meat is key. Eggs, red light therapy. There's been some studies, saunas, pretty much anything. And then you can get it at least up to the 600 to 800 nanograms, which you can still put on muscle in that range. But a lot of people are so cooked nowadays that they quite literally have to go to TRT. You have people in their 20s getting prescribed TRT from doctors. I mean, that is how bad the testosterone epidemic is in this country. And it's sad, but in my mind, administering testosterone in that form is better than having a level of 300 nanograms per deciliter, which is absolutely insane.
But these guys probably had low T because they just don't exercise. They sit around, they're sedentary, they eat garbage. Yep. So they're like, that's what a man would be without life.
You're not a man at that point. You might as well be a woman, in my mind. I mean, there is. You cannot be a man. You can't be masculine without testosterone. That is our male sex hormone. You can't have kids without a decent testosterone score. And if you do, those kids are also going to be jacked up as well because of all the microplastics and everything else in your body. So there needs to be a real big overhaul with men and testosterone in this country. And I advocate that all the time because I do bodybuilding on the side. And it's like, this is healthier than what society is force feeding you as a man. This is why we have dudes in man buns, dudes in dresses, dudes saying that they're other genders. It's because we have a manliness problem in America, and it's been force fed to us.
Well, I think too the problem is it's the environmental toxins of cities.
Yep.
It's beyond just the microplastics. It's all of the different kinds of endocrine disruptors. So I have here a glass bottle of water. We have refillable glass bottles. We do have plastic here too, because hey man, you know, we're some people want it, some people don't.
Like when you have people with like Ed Krasenstein on, then they'll drink.
Well, I mean, if people don't care, they don't care. But we make sure, like I drink these. I'll sometimes have a plastic water bottle because I'm not freaking out about it. But I actually try. You know, when we go to the farms, I want wax paper wrapped meat. Mm-hmm. And I've had conversations, you know, with my family about doing what we can to avoid plastics for our food. The problem is literally everything's covered in plastic.
It's very difficult.
Very difficult. And there's this belief that these plastics are solids. They're not. They break apart. They erode. They go into the food.
Into the food.
You got bacon wrapped in plastic. You got plastic bacon, and you're eating it.
Well, and pans are a big thing too. The first thing my wife did when she moved into my house, she took one look at my pans and threw everything away. My bowls, my pans, my silverware, spatulas, everything. And she's like, I am going to Target. And the next thing I know, my kitchen's entirely redone with
Targets. No, I tell you what you
Target sells, no. You know, as long as you get a cast iron pan.
Nope. You go outside and you find a big rock. And then you set a fire and you put the rock on top of it, and then you're getting real minerals.
There you go.
You don't want to. We don't know what they when they're shipping those cast iron things. I'm willing to bet that they grease them up. So when you buy, I'm half kidding about the cast iron skillets, but
you have to season your own cast iron or your own. Like I just had to season a wok. It was a real pain in the butt.
But you got to strip these things. I'm not going to give anybody advice, but I'll tell you, when you buy like blenders and stuff, there's like shipping grease and stuff.
Yep.
You have no idea what's in these things. Clothing too. So, man, I learned this the hard way. One day, I was at my friend's house, or actually, this was a big shared loft space that I lived with like 9 people in Chicago, and I'd go in the laundry room and I just, you know, there's soap, throw out my clothes, and then one day I busted out in hives all over, and I had no idea why, and I was like, man, I must have eaten something bad. So I took a shower, I got like calamine lotion or whatever, and I was like, man, this sucks. And then I, put on some shorts, went to bed. Next day, put my clothes on, went outside, busted out in hives, and I'm getting really mad. Like I didn't eat the same thing. What's going on? And I'm like, I got to get rid of the environmental factors. It was a laundry soap.
Clothing and soap and all those things. I mean, it's all chemicals. It can reduce your testosterone level significantly too. 100% cotton is where it's at.
The laundry soap stays in your clothes. After you wash your clothes, the laundry soap is still in your clothes, and it goes into your skin and it goes into your body. You are absorbing all of it. So I was like, wow, that's messed up. I'm like, I washed it, rinsed it. The soap is supposed to be gone. It was not gone. And I was allergic to it. And I don't know what was in it, but I was allergic to it. And so I was like, I bought that eco-friendly soap that's made of like essential oils and coconuts or whatever. Had no problems after that.
I pray for people that they can find a wife like I have that does health stuff for a living, because like all my pans, everything in my house, there's no artificial scents, there's no artificial flavors, sweeteners, you know, even the laundry stuff, the detergent, it's all natural. And the significantly, you know, she goes and she'll go to the store for 6 hours, you know, all be to her. You know, I just play video games while she's doing that or do something else. And she comes back with cotton shirts, cotton this, cotton that. And I'm like, oh, okay, sweet, you know. But people need to, 100% cotton, just making things natural again. Like that should be somebody's presidential slogan: make things natural again.
I'm just waiting for someone to come along and be like, he's so patriarchal. His wife does all of these things.
Yes.
Tends to his house. You're oppressing.
She is a great house tender. I will tell you that.
But she was interested in all of this stuff before you guys met or got married. I mean, it's interesting that this is something she is so passionate about, and it really does add to your life.
Oh, it adds to my life more than anything ever has. If you can improve your health, every single aspect of your life will change 100-fold, and you will notice it almost immediately.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things people mix up, which is like fads versus being actually attentive to your health. I think this is maybe an effective diet culture or like sort of becoming healthy as a trend versus really being serious about finding out what is best for your lifestyle and body. And again, like I don't think people take it seriously, and maybe that's because of time, because we're all working all the time and can't prioritize it. But also maybe it's because we're just told to trust that the water is fine and the artificial colors don't do anything. And if you question it, you're.
I mean, eating clean is literally considered diet in America terms. If you eat clean food, they say you are dieting, which is absurd.
There's a funny meme where it's a 4chan green text where it's a guy, he's like from Europe, go to the grocery store, grab some vegetables and some fruits and some bread, checking out, and the cashier says, you're on a diet, huh? And he goes, what? And they go, eating healthy, right? And he goes, I don't understand. And that's just it. Like, to Americans, it's like normal food would be getting the chicken nuggets that are, it's not really chicken, and I don't know what it's covered in, but, that's what we eat. That's our food, I guess.
Yeah, and we wonder why men in this country are so messed up. And not just men, because it affects women's hormonal levels entirely too. And then you get crazy women, and you wonder why. It's because hormones are literally the key to everything. And when you do nothing but breathe bad air, drink bad water, and eat bad food, your hormones are going to be out of whack.
We're going to go to Super Chats. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this here channel, and share the show if you do like it. Head over to timcast.com to watch our members-only uncensored show, which will be coming up in about a half an hour, where you as members get to call in and talk to us and our guest. Join the show. It'll be a lot of fun. Let's go. Kyle says, thoughts on the odds of mass amnesty being given before the election might explain why so many criminal aliens are appearing on voter rolls. That already happened. What do you mean? I thought Biden already did that mass amnesty thing, where they basically dissolved all of the adjudication appointments.
I'm pretty sure that already happened.
Yeah, he said that he was going to eliminate the amnesty appointments for a lot of people.
Yeah, so basically, if they came here illegally,
wasn't it like 300,000 people or something?
Some huge number. Yeah, it was. If you came here illegally, they said, okay, well, we got to check to see if you are worthy of amnesty. So come to this date at this time, and then they just said, I forget it.
Yeah.
So that
he
you're just
hasn't
here.
actually granted them citizenship. They're just in weird legal
They're in
limbo.
weird legal limbo,
but it's perfect.
they have
It
working
means-
permits and.
Well, they have driver's license
But this
in Utah.
means they are non-voting workers in America. So that means in Democrat districts where they end up, the Democrats can't get voted out.
They can't get voted out, and also it increases the number of representatives in the House that those areas get.
Well, everybody always talks about illegal immigrants voting in elections, but the biggest kind of conspiracy around it is you flood them into predominantly blue areas. That changes the census, which they count illegals in the census, and then that changes those who are going to be elected, how many people are going to be elected in that predominantly blue area. But like even in Utah, out of all places, which they have a very big problem with, Denver, basically flying illegal immigrants into Utah, which is awful. It's my home, but I see it on a daily basis. You go on the freeway, there's illegal immigrants driving that don't know how to drive. You literally walk in the Social Security office or a DMV, it's almost all illegal immigrants, and Governor Cox has literally made illegals have the ability to get Utah driver's licenses. And they're every other week.
Places, Illinois.
Yeah. Well, every other week now there's, a 10 to 30 pounds of fentanyl found in a very, very nice area of city.
The worst. Also.
He is the worst. Well, and he won in a very, very weird and particular way against Phil Lyman, who I was rooting for. Phil's great, but he always denied. I mean, I tried to do a confrontation with him, and he literally ran away from me. He hates me. He hates you, Tim. I have it on the inside of his team. When you talked about him on the IRL show, Governor Cox of Utah,
Oh,
he
yeah?
despises you. He's terrified of you, terrified of me. It's hilarious. He's a coward.
We had Katie Davis Court chasing Pramila Jayapal down the street. Pramila.
What did I say about him?
You covered my story about the soldier, the Venezuelan soldier that was on my flight next to me on the way to Utah. And his whole thing was denying the fact that Utah was what they call a secret sanctuary state, which it is. They don't deport illegals from Utah. They're overrunning homeless shelters, being literally put up in abandoned buildings and getting driver's licenses. But he swore up and down that it wasn't. And then that story came out in all my reporting of every single time I got on a flight from any airport in the country, illegals were on my flight with me. And it just got too big that he couldn't deny. And I was like, oh, Denver's sending them. It's not my fault. So
Well, in Denver, that Venezuelan gang has just said that it's okay to
they get the green light.
Yeah.
Let's grab some more. We got Clint Torres. He says, howdy, people. This will be my last super chat and will cancel my membership. Not that it matters much, but I can't fund anyone who shows more outrage over political matters than seeing a male fight a woman. Evil prevails when good men do nothing. Just because a woman stands up to a fight with a male doesn't justify allowing a male to fight her. Anything less than full condemnation of males fighting women is precisely how we arrived at this. The paradox and cognitive dissonance of Clint Torres. The idea that you would stop being a member at Timcast because I don't support women who advocate for men fighting women. It seems highly paradoxical. So, Clint, in support of a woman who publicly announced her support for a man fighting women, you've decided to stop funding me, who have publicly denounced a woman who supports men fighting women.
That makes lots of sense.
Have fun. Have fun, good sir. If you don't want to support the show, by all means, you certainly don't have to. But I will never. Like, the idea that a progressive feminist can march around saying men should be allowed to fight women, and I'll prove it, and then she gets in the ring with a man and loses, and I'm going to defend her, is just laughably absurd. I'm going to say, no, these are the people who are fighting to put men in women's sports. It's just the weirdest thing. Like, could you imagine a progressive feminist organization that has done everything in their power to get men and women's sports, engaging in a sport, and all of a sudden you defend them? Clint, why are you defending people who want men and women's sports is the question I have.
Well, you time and time again have literally spoken out on this exact issue of men shouldn't be fighting in women's sports. But it's the fact that this woman literally did it to herself and then afterwards defended the fact and promoted that this man was going to go on and beat women in the ring again. So she's kind of doing it to herself at this point, which is sad.
All right, let's grab some more.
It is sad. And she's doing it to herself. And she's doing it to any other woman who tries to, step out and not have to fight men.
Joy W says both are horrible examples. The man because he hit a woman, the woman for allowing other women to get hit in the ring with him. Look, I'll tell you this. I am for consistency in my morals. I don't care who you are, what you do. If you think men should be allowed to hit women, I don't care who you are. I will say you're wrong. I will not stand by you. I will not support you. That's ridiculous. And so everybody wants to, this is what conservatives do. Oh, poor George Floyd, until the body camera footage came out. Everybody was on board with that. Oh, poor Covington kids. But I'm sorry, Nathan Phillips is the guy's name. When the Covington kids thing happened, all the conservatives, all the big pundits were like, it was wrong what that kid did, except for like 3 or 4 people. One, me, when I was like, I don't know what this video is. It's a kid looking at a guy. What's the video? And then I went through a 2-hour live stream and found that it was the other way around. That video got over 500,000 views in a matter of hours when I was like, you guys are wrong. The kid did nothing wrong. And right now there are people who are saying this woman who advocates men fight women should be defended by us. No way.
Conservatives are their own worst enemies at this point.
But the woman was boxing a man by choice. She wanted to, and she advocates for more women to fight men. So why would I say she's a feminist? She's a progressive leftist feminist advocating women fight men. I'm like, of course she's for this. She's in the ring. No one supports it more than she does. And then afterwards, she publicly stated she hopes he wins. Mm-hmm. Like, dude, it's one thing to be like, I don't want to judge somebody, but it's unfair or something. It's another thing to say nothing. It's another thing to say you hope she makes it all the way. As if to say, this dude should beat all the other women up. And I'm gonna defend that. Bro, take your money and go. I ain't defending that. You're not gonna convince me to defend a woman who wants women to get beat in the ring by a man. Because you're like emotional short-term outrage.
Like she has Stockholm syndrome.
Or she's a progressive feminist and this is what they do.
Mm-hmm. But she's Italian. I mean, it's a little different, but still.
I'm you know what, man?
She's definitely captured by something.
All right, let's see. Raymond G. Maga Stanley Jr., Maga Stanley says, well, F-16 just got delivered to Ukraine yesterday. I mean, what would we need them for anyways? The escalation will continue until morale improves.
My favorite thing is just white men killing white men. When is it going to stop? When are the brother wars going to stop? Like, come on, guys.
White on white crime.
It's like, you don't even get me talking about crime. It's not the road we want to go down. But it's absurd. I mean, I'm about as anti-war as you can get. And seeing this war in specific, the Ukraine-Russia war, and us emboldening Ukraine, they have killed generations of men, and now we're sending women into combat, and you're still supporting this? I mean, we're propped up. They're waving Ukrainian flags on the floor when literally reports came out years ago of Ukraine is the most corrupt country in Europe, and now we're pretending like it's a democracy.
Right? Isn't it like Nazi country?
I don't know the reality behind that. You have like some units or people within, I think it's Azov, that identify that way.
Azov.
But it's like, I don't care if there's Nazis there. I don't care who's there. It's just the fact that we're funding people that are related in a lot of senses, literally murdering other people. It's absurd to me.
All right, we got Juan Castle saying, Tim, can you give us skateboarding 101 vids perhaps? The answer is yes, I can. If you go to Boonies HQ on YouTube, we are launching a series called Trictionary. Haha. And the goal is to create a massive YouTube playlist with 3-minute long videos showing every single trick. So you definitely, and you can also check out Boonies HQ on Instagram. We have a great video from one of our writers, Sam. He does a Smith grind and teaches you about the Smith. He does it on a flat bar. And then at the end, there's a couple variations, but it was really based. He did a Smith to feeble, which was very sick. It's a very good trick. So Trictionary, we're hoping that within like a year or two, there's going to be like 500 videos or maybe 1,000 videos. Within a year, maybe it'll be 100. If we really do crank out like one per week, then we're looking at 50 or so. But the idea would be that anyone can look up any trick and actually just see the breakdown of the trick being done and know its name. And then maybe we'll even do like a little editorial explaining the trick's history or something.
Oh, that's
It's all about building the culture and preserving the history of skateboarding and building it up. The big risk right now is that with the Olympics coming up in LA in 2028, and the industry being so weak right now with major media brands dying, shoe companies falling apart, we are looking at skateboarding turning into gymnastics. It will be dudes wearing unitards. There will be no style, no culture. It'll be stripped away because there's nothing to support it. And you're going to get foreign countries that are going to be like, I don't care about your clothing. I don't care about your magazines. You're getting a stock board. It's going to be all wood colored, and you're going to wear a unitard because it's form fitting and most effective for skating. We don't want that to happen. I was against skateboarding being the Olympics before it happened, but now that it's here, we're gonna do what we can to make sure we can adjust our sails. We can't control the direction of the wind. We can't adjust our sails. Let's go. Joshua Schaefer says, someone mentioned on your stream this morning that you should have John Cooper of Skillet on IRL or The Culture War. You absolutely should. Also loving Appalachian Nights. Thank you. Skillet just played Charlestown, the venue there by us, a couple weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago. I remember I was there that night they played. So it's too bad I never met the guy.
Not a lot of people know, too, is Skillet is Christian. It's a Christian rock band. So I literally went with my church when I was a kid. That's what they took me to, was a Skillet concert.
Oh, wow.
And they are very, very Christian, and they have their strong beliefs, and they're willing to speak out about it.
That's cool. Then definitely. Would love to have him on. Maybe if John wants to talk politics and just come on and talk news and politics on IRL, we'd be stoked to have him. It's too bad we missed him when he came through town. I saw the ads for Skillet because it was up for like months. And then I think they played on like a Friday, and we were there, and everybody had their Skillet shirts. And then I was like, Skillet. Eggs.
it's a weird name.
Yeah. I was all I could think about was like eggs and bacon. Mm-hmm. I like eggs and bacon. Let's go.
I just keep thinking of cast iron because we were talking about cast iron.
It's great.
You know?
Done right.
Oh, yeah.
You want to know? I got a horror story for you.
Oh, no.
This one's for all the ladies out there. So I think we were traveling somewhere, and so we hired some cleaners to come and
Oh, boy.
oh, you know where this is going.
I know where this is going.
And so there we were, driving up the driveway, 1 a.m. Eerie sounds in the distance. We pull up the car. Engine turns off. We grab our bags, walk to the front door. It opens with a creak. As we enter, dead silence. Everything seems normal. Allison puts the bag down, notices something odd in the kitchen. The cast iron skillet isn't there. She walks up slowly, opens the dishwasher.
No.
And there it is!
No.
In the dishwasher, completely ruined.
No.
And thrown away.
Yeah.
Could not be rescued. She tried to rescue it. She couldn't do it.
I don't even have a dishwasher.
Put it in the dishwasher.
No, we hand wash everything in our house.
She was
No
very mad.
dishwashers.
Yeah, I don't have
was-
a dishwasher either.
She was very mad, and she called them and was like, It was funny because the manager of the cleaning company was like, is something wrong? And she was like, the cast iron skillet was in the dishwasher. And the woman was like, oh no, like instantly knew, like, I'm so sorry. Can we buy you a new one? And then it was just like, no, because it has to be like redone properly. I don't know much about it, but
You have to season it. It's a whole
Yep.
thing. I just had to do this whole thing with my wok. It was like, such a pain in the butt because I got a new wok.
it's a horror story for not just for women, but I got to tell you,
Anyone who likes to cook,
but I think women mostly know more about the cast iron skillets than guys
so
do.
you got to be careful.
Because, like, it's not that it's like saying that women should be in the kitchen or whatever. It's that guys will throw bacon in the microwave and then pour Cheese Whiz on them and just be like,
Microwave? I
learned about that like a few months ago. I had a buddy, and I walk in his house, and he's microwaving bacon. I was like, "You can do that? Like,
yeah.
this is raw bacon." He's like, "Yeah, you can microwave bacon."
but Ty-
Like, this sounds
no.
awful.
Nothing made Allison happier than to hear when I told the story about how she was out of town visiting family, and for dinner I was dipping like re-microwaved bacon in cheese sauce. Because when she's here, we have like seasoned salmon with risotto and broccoli, but it is funny because every guy I've told the story to, they go, yep, wife's out of town. It's right to the garbage.
Every single time.
I'm grabbing a chunk of ground beef and just salt,
You know what's
cheese.
funny is I was on the show last night and my son was like, I'm going to make my own dinner. And I was like, what are you making? He goes, sloppy joes. I was like, I would never make you that. He's like, I know.
I much would prefer to have like roasted chicken breast with Brussels sprouts than dipping bacon in cheese
Oh,
sauce.
100%. But you got to do what you got to do. I'm not doing all that work, all right? I travel out of town,
the thing with
and it's
bacon, though-
off
We're
limits.
busy.
I'm
We're
done.
busy, huh?
Like, I understand the convenience of the microwave, but you could just put a piece of foil on a cookie tray and put it in the oven for 20 minutes, and it's way better.
Yeah, it is better in the
ain't
oven.
got time for that.
Your wife would have a meltdown because
It's
they
the
make like
oven.
plastic containers specifically. You put the bacon in there to be microwaved. She would
Disgusting.
never let that happen.
All glass at my house.
It's just funny that feminists and the left are so disparaging towards women, having this like social trope that they're better at cooking. They're more focused on healthier meals, and guys are notorious for eating garbage and just like. I kind of feel like if there were no ladies, guys their hair would be falling
it'd be
out.
so bad.
They'd be low T. They'd be like, I don't know why I feel sick all the time and my joints hurt.
Well, that's why in the Bible it says, leave your family and cleave to your wife.
Well, every single morning I wake up and I walk downstairs. My wife always wakes up before me, and there it is, the same breakfast every morning, eggs and beef. Every single morning. She's an absolute unit. And if she's not there, if I'm on the road or something, it's like, oh, let me get a white Monster and some Zin. I'm good for the next 6 hours.
Taco Bell, maybe.
It's boy dinner.
Yep.
Yep. All right, here we go. Hal Gailey says, decry discrimination in competition, then immediately admit to doing so and continue to do so based on registered sex, weight, age, and nation of origin. Let Tyson fight a toddler for the gold, or they're hypocrites. Richard Cook says, Tim, Karini is being ironic about wishing her opponent well. She's not being supportive. It's a translation issue between Italian and English. I do not believe that is correct. Because it's weird to say, I hope she makes it all the way to the end. If you were to say, like, I hope she's happy, we know what that means. That's sarcasm. But if you say, I hope she makes it all the way to the end and finds happiness, or something like, and is happy, it's kind of like those two combined really take away any element of sarcasm. But maybe, I
It
don't
might
know.
be a language thing, too.
In Italy, everything's like,
I hope you
culturally
find happiness. I hope you make it to the end.
You know, maybe it's like
Is that French?
I don't know.
it's like the South's version
know.
of
I got
Bless Your
nothing.
Heart.
Yeah, she's saying the Italian version of Bless Your Heart. and we're not
that's not an
getting it.
Italian accent. Italian accent is like this. I hope you make it to the end. huh?
That's Jersey.
York.
That's Jersey, Jen. I know, because that's my people.
I understand the influence of Italian there, but not quite.
Hey, I hear Italian accent, I think Sopranos. That's all I think.
No, that's, again,
Yeah, but like,
that's Jersey. That's
if
Mid-Atlantic.
a soprano guy says, I hope you find happiness and I wish you the best, you're like, oh, crap.
Yeah. You're like, I'm going to die.
Exactly. You see that? So maybe.
Crap.
Yeah.
That's what Italians do, huh? All right. Paul Thongham says, reminds me of the Futurama episode when Bender pretended to be a female robot and participated in the female robot competitions to win all the gold medals. It's like, should we just put that video up on Twitter and let everyone watch and be like, dude, 20 years ago, Bender didn't pretend to be female. He actually underwent a robot sex change. and they replaced his testosterone with female lubricants. I think that was the episode. So he actually underwent, and robots in Futurama apparently could do this. And then there's that famous line where Leela's like, "Get out of my gender and stay out," or something like that.
Well, South Park has predicted this too over time and time again. They're the new Simpsons when it comes to predictions in the world. I mean, things have just gotten so weird that we're looking to literally adult cartoons that they're the ones predicting everything. Family Guy's done it, South Park, Simpsons, whole nine yards.
It's the critiques of Matt Parker and Trey Stone. Is that what it is? Matt Stone and Trey Parker. I mixed them up. I don't know their names.
The South Park guys.
The South Park guys. We'll call them that. The Simpsons have just joined in on the absurdity.
Yep.
Yeah.
What was it? They did an episode where Abe Simpson was bi-curious.
Oh,
Did you see that one?
no.
Yeah, like Abe was like, when I was in the army, there was a guy and I wanted to make out with him. And then they meet up together and they kiss. And he's like, I don't think I'm gay. And the guy's like, that's okay. And they hold hands.
Well, and then now, literally after that episode, you had leftists on Twitter and stuff being like, actually, Abe Lincoln was bi. So, and then it translated into like the real world. And it's like, you guys are something else here.
They love rewriting history.
Yeah.
That's our
All
favorite
right.
thing.
John Badesky says, Tim, put that creativity into making the world a better place instead of making more money. Spoken like a true leftist. What is capital? What is money? Access, resources. How do you make the world a better place when you don't have those things? It's silly. But also, how do you make the world a better place? Honest question. I find that most younger activists and leftists think making the world be a better place literally just means give me money. And I'm not kidding. A leftist who is for veganism, what are they saying by making the world a better place? They want you to live the way they want you to live. Are they correct? Probably not. They think they are. So it's just arrogance. So adhering to their worldview actually doesn't make the world a better place. It just makes it more uniform. How do you actually make the world a better place? Well, it's very difficult. But I think it's actually quite simple. Help construct systems and repair systems that are conducive to building more systems. There are certain systems that will deviate and be destructive to their own ends. If you look at leftism, what is the end result of communist and dictatorial systems? They collapse every single time. Now, most systems do find their end, regardless of governmental systems, economic systems, but some last longer than others, and some are more prone to repairing themselves or altering in such a way that they do get repaired. The Soviet Union states are in bad shape and have been for a long time. The post-Soviet states like Ukraine, look at that. The United States is doing rather well, but things are getting a little murky, a little rocky as power coalesces. So how do you make the world a better place? Well, I can tell you this, not one person knows all the answers and can do much towards a single ideological goal that will actually be correct, because you'll probably get some things wrong. So I look at it very from a rudimentary perspective, like what is the basics, simple function of life? To organize free energy into complex systems. Therefore, if we are focusing on things that are conducive towards order with balance, because you don't too much order and you get collapse, too little and you're in collapse already. It's finding that balancing beam act. So we want to support people who are good people. Decentralized systems tend to be better than centralized ones, and focus on building those things. It can be really, really simple. The world is the way it is. Why is there a bridge? Well, some guy one day decided he wanted to build a small bridge. Someone else looked at it, learned from him, and said, I can make a bigger bridge than that. There's not a reality where some guy was like, if we built a gigantic bridge, let's just figure it out. It's typically individuals taking small actions to produce things that have a net benefit in the future when combined with other things. The left wants to centralize everything and break it all apart. I think it's a bad idea. Anyway, let's read some more super chats. We got time for a little bit more. Rita Ho says, Reuters reported today that the IBA was stripped of its recognition by the IOC last year over governance and finance issues. Who benefits from this? Lynn ran tests and showed she is a biological female, but no one reported. Data don't lie, but people do. Lynn is the real victim. Choose what you want to believe. You know, it's a reality buffet. IBA says that they came back biologically male, and apparently Lynn didn't contest it and sign the paperwork. So whatever. EW says, wouldn't the Cargill decisions revoking Chevron defense make it where these new rules, including Title IX and all other titles under the DOE, are null if challenged? They weren't rules or regs passed by Congress and signed into law. Incorrect. Title IX is of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which was passed by Congress. Next question. Yeah, those are the titles of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. So they passed the law, and within it are those specific categories.
But what about the reinterpretation by the agency? Because the DOE literally reinterpreted.
Yeah, that's gone. Out the door.
What do you mean?
When Biden was just like, we're going to change the rules.
That's what Chevron would do, right?
It would go back to the original
Chevron
congressional.
would say that the reinterpretation
Yes.
by the agency is not acceptable and is not law.
Yes.
Yeah.
Garhant says, Shapiro is easy to sink. Vance, I'm so happy to see a Jewish VP candidate with me. Will pledge to protect Israel with me from Hamas on this stage today. Shapiro loses Jewish vote or Islamic vote, no matter his answer. Yep. Brandon Bushnell says, I'm a U.S. Marine overseas right now. I'm in a dangerous place. And when I see the fall of America from an outside perspective, it makes me think, what am I doing here? It hurts, man. It really does.
So this is the more patriotic version of Aaron Bushnell, who lit himself on fire, who was in the Air Force.
I think, unfortunately for Bushnell, he was suffering from severe depression. He was listless and purposeless and thought this is a path towards some kind of significance. And it is not.
Well, he's already forgotten. And then, you know...
Oh, you said his name.
Yeah, they said his name, but then the left came out, certain segments to the left, and like, oh, he was a white guy. You know, why are we martyring a white man? And it's like, dude, you guys just eat yourselves.
All right. Greg S. says, 6 years ago, we, the U.S., recognized Juan Guaido as the opposition as the winner. What happened that time? We sat until Biden got elected and then removed all sanctions till another election. Yep. So Venezuela will do what Venezuela wants to do. Let's go. What have we here? KCB says Republicans play politics like short stacks play poker. They would rather lose everything slowly versus risking it all for a big win. Pathetic. You are there wrong, sir. Short stacks are notorious for jamming all in on weak bets. So for those who don't know in poker, when you have a short stack, it's literally you have a short stack of chips. So here's how it goes. Let's say you're playing a 1-2 game over at your local casino with a $100 to $400 buy-in. You buy in at the top. That's $400 on the table. That's 4 big stacks of red chips, or maybe you do a stack of green in there. Now you've got $400. The guy across from you is bought at the top. He's at 400. You're equals, and you both have large stacks. You look down at your hand, and it's pretty good. So you bet $15 out of your 400. That guy says, I'm going to raise you to 45. You think about it, and you say, it's a 3-bet. I mean, I got Queen Jack offsuit. It's not that good. Probably shouldn't have opened it with it, to be honest. What was I thinking? If I call this bet and I miss the flop, he's going to raise probably a 2/3 pot size bet. And now I'm going to have to put in another $40. Not interested. I fold. You can have the $15. Now, what happens if you're a short stack and you've got $50 and you bet 15 and then he min raises to 30? You're thinking, all right, well, I only got $50. I can't lose any more than that. I'm all in. And you shove it in. And then all 5 cards runs out and you cross your fingers. Short stacks notoriously will jam all in on that's it. There you go. So Republicans don't play that way. If Republicans played politics like people play poker short stacks, they would be going insane over everything. You know, the Democrats would be like, we just plumb don't agree with this marginal tax decrease. And then every Republican would just like boycott everything. The politicians would be screaming at the top of their lungs, banging on the table, being like, this is the only thing that matters. No, Republicans play politics like they have a deep stack. Like they're sitting at the poker table with $2,000 in chips and the other guy has 400 and they're like, nah, I'm going to keep it tight and only bet when I have to.
That's true. That's a good analogy.
And so, yeah, I don't even know if it's fair to say they're playing like it's a deep stack. They're playing super tight, taking no risks, and just slowly losing their stack.
And trying to keep onto their money the whole time. Not willing to put a big risk.
Hey, strongly worded letters, okay?
All right,
it's going to change.
That's our tried and true way.
Yeah. All right, everybody, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Head over to timcast.com, click join us. Become a member if you like the show and want to see it continue. And you're going to get that Members Only Uncensored show coming up in a couple of minutes. It's going to be fun, not so family friendly. We're going to talk about some fun stuff. So definitely head over to timcast.com. But smash the like button, share the show. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL on Instagram. You can follow me personally on X and Instagram at Timcast. Taylor, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, of course. Watch Tenant Now at Watch Tenant Now on X. That's where all my reporting goes. And then at Taylor USA, Tayler USA. That's I retweet and share my opinions there.
You can find me at Libby Emmons on Twitter and of course at thepostmillennial.com and humanevents.com. I hope you come subscribe and check out what we're doing.
I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. Thanks, guys, for watching. You can find my work and the work of all the SCNR writers at Timcast News on the internet. You can also check out scnr.com. Two things. Phil Labonte of All That Remains starts his tour tomorrow. They have their first show, so you guys should, contact him via the internet. I miss him being here, so I'm sure about a lot of you guys do too. The other thing is that you should look up Mark Fogel. He's the American teacher who was left behind. He was not included in the prisoner swap today, and I think it's really important that people know his story. If you want to follow me, I'm HannahClaire.B on Instagram, and I'm HannahClaireB on X. Thanks for everything you do. Have a good night.
We're back tomorrow morning on Tenet Media on YouTube for the Culture War, discussing communism and Islam, so you definitely want to check that one out. But I'm going to give one more honorable super chat here to Clint Torres, who says, Tim, one last thing. Thanks for twist my point. You've been friends with Destiny for way too long. Even though I've disagreed with you on some issues, I always admire your honesty until today. And this is what happens when you are too emotional to understand the logical problem before you, Clint. The problem is a woman who supports men fighting women so much she decided to enter the ring with a man. She lost. Publicly stated that she forfeited because her nose hurt, not because Khif was a man. Then said, I hope Khif makes it to the end and is happy. That is a progressive feminist who is advocating for men to fight women. And you said you were pulling your membership and your super chats from me for calling her out for supporting that. Your actions today send a signal that if progressive feminists support men fighting women, you will defend them if you're sad they got hit because of their own will. Okay, so be it. By all means, go do what you want. We'll be over at timcast.com. Thanks for hanging out.